Hey, welcome everybody. Hey, yeah, I was going to take a nap today. I was like doing a podcast with talk with JB this morning. If you guys had watched it, I know like Faithless Pheasant had and a few other people there. And I was actually going to take a nap after that. However, developments occurred today, and I've decided to actually do this instead. Let me fix my chat here. There we go. Chat box out there. So, wow. You would think by now I'd be like not even amazed at the amount of level of dishonesty that surrounds the Atheist Experience show, but I still am. I mean, there's just a degree of dishonesty where you have to go, holy shit, how does this person in their wildest imagination think that what they're doing is constitutive of what an honest or ethical person does? I will get some music for the video, Chesh. Every time I add music to that, it gets a content ID when I add it from the library. Now, I'm sure that there's other people that have free music, but I will find something eventually. And then I have to re-render it. So I will try to take care of that. But at least I put now on there, hey, no music, so people don't turn off their headphones and blast their eardrums off when it comes in. But anyways, so, I mean, there's been a long-standing history that we've seen with people that surround themselves with the Atheist Experience. Now, this isn't a group that I'm going to be talking about that is, I guess, directly affiliated with them. It is a fan page, a very low-quality philosophy fan page that full of people that clearly don't know philosophy. And it's only like 680 members. It's not a large group. I mean, the Great Debate community on Facebook that I own is bigger. But it's something that I'm not even in that much. However, I saw a video in that particular form, and I'm going through this. I'll give you the chronology. And I happened to like the video. I asked the person, can I critique your video? And I did, and I gave her a short little comment that she seemed to like. But she had been asking, she's new to the atheist scene, not a lot of subs, 88 something subs. But she wanted to have some input on how to, have better discussions. It was just something that was right up her alley, right? And somebody had suggested Matt Dillahunty, and I basically said, look, man, this is like, trying to learn like the violin and starting with bad habits, right? If you want to learn philosophy and you want to learn the topic about atheism, I would highly recommend you do so by people that actually know a lot more about the topic than an atheist activist that doesn't bother to read any peer review papers or read any books on the topic. I mean, if Matt Dillahunty has ever read a peer review paper on philosophy or epistemology, I would be really amazed, right? I don't think that he ever has. I could be wrong, but I'm never going to ask him. And he probably would admit that he never has. But I thought that, this video that I critiqued was decent. And I think that people that want to get into YouTube and that want to do these videos and want to talk about these topics, if they start like getting all these bad habits like the new atheism TM, I think it does detriment to not just the atheist movement and not just the atheist communities, but to all communities dealing with critical thinking. Because as we know now, most of the people that have surrounded themselves nowadays with the Atheist Experience are not critical thinkers. They're just not. I mean, the Atheist Experience has been fractured to the point of it's been decimated. Now, did I used to watch the Atheist Experience? Yes. Did I actually think at one time Matt Dillahunty had some good conversations with people? Yes. Not going to front. I'm not going to be some kind of dogmatic person that said, hey, Matt never had a good argument. Matter of fact, his argument and debate with Cy-Ted Bernacate was one of the best I've ever seen. Now, granted, he had some assistance to that from my friend Ozzy, I believe. But it was a good discussion. Now, granted, I get along with Cy-Ted Bernacate. I consider him a friend. I disagree with him vehemently. He's wrong from start to finish. But we can have a conversation with each other, right? We don't have to agree to have an amazing conversation. He's been on my channel many times. But he also knows that I'm not somebody that he can steamroll over, right? But that's what I think Matt Dillahunty and these cronies do. They steamroll over people. They find a discussion they're unable to have an adequate conversation with on topics that are ill-equipped to discuss because they have not read about the topics. They have the, quote, hang-up button, right? And so that's what happened in this group. I was hung up on by a dishonest admin who asked me for evidence, and while I was giving them the evidence, and by the way, they did this, I think 2 hours, they asked me 2 hours ago. I was literally in a podcast this morning talking with JB. I got done with that. Then I watched Cheshire's video on Matt Dillahunty, and then I commented on that. And then I was, again, going to take a nap. I was responding to this comment that the admin made. Find out I'm blocked, right? Now, luckily, I kept the page open. I kept the page open. So I have it all in chronological order. Evidence. I know. Objective evidence. Isn't it great? Yeah, if you disagree, you must hate. Yes, just like that need a person. I subbed to them, by the way, but I subbed to them the other day. I thought I'd give an example of what I mean by intellectual dishonesty and why these communications are shut down by people that have absolutely no understanding of these topics. And instead of engaging on people on these topics, they rather block, remove, or quote, hang up on. We'll just call that hanging up on, right? I mean, it's a good euphemism, right? It's a good analogy when you're being removed from a group. By the way, I barely was in this group. I don't care. I mean, I'm in 40 Facebook groups. I have my own Facebook group. Why I give a shit about a group that has 695 members that consisting of people that are absolutely moronic, I don't care. But that was not the point. The point was the reasons, right? The dishonest reasons. Now, again, the only reason I even said anything in here is because I happened to see a comment in there by somebody that I thought was pretty well written and asking for help. Well, what do we like to do in our community? We like to help people, especially in these topics. So let's just dive into this. And yes, I went early, by the way. I was going to do this at 2, but I sent this to the admin, right? And I said, look, I'm going live on this. I'm going to be, inform you of it because that's what I do. Watch, don't watch. I don't give a shit. But they, were running their, it's just like, oh, well, you can't have to prove your claim or just whatever. It's just nonsense. I'm like I don't care. I'm not interested in having a conversation with you. You are intellectually dishonest. You literally blocked me before I even had a chance to respond. I have a life. I do sleep, right? He's like, well, my first one to you was 8 hours ago. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not allowed to go to bed at night, wake up the next morning and check my Facebook. Okay, you're a brilliant admin. Let me tell you, that's going to go far. Yeah. I usually give people 24 hours to respond in my group, if something like that, right? Because, people do have lives, unfortunately. And, I'm not going to say I'm extremely busy, but yeah, I got a lot of things going on. But if you haven't checked out the Talking with JB that I did this morning, go check it out. It was pretty good. Nice guy, really nice guy. And by the way, if anyone wants to join in this, let's knock yourself out. Let me know in the live chat, and I'll set up a hangout for you guys. This was a really spur of the moment because, like I said, I was going to take a nap because I'm old. I sleep and then I take naps. But let's kind of dive into this. If anyone want to come in, oh hey, Godless Girl. By the way, I'm going to. It's funny, Godless Girl, that you mentioned that because the videos that I had cited to him dealt with Josh. I have actually 2 of them. Because so Josh, it's funny that you're here, Godless Girl, because Josh, a.k.a. Derek, was actually one of the evidences I was going to give to him, but he didn't allow me to do so. You can join, Godless Girl. Can you give me a second so I can set that up, though? Josh is Realistic Nihilist. That's Godless Girl's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. I don't know if they're still together or not. I assume so, but yeah, that's Josh is Realistic Nihilist. I've known him for 5 or 6 years. He's like really early on part of the Great Debate community and from Nadia's channel. I mean, he is a Poe. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do think he definitely is a contrarian, but he definitely knows philosophy. I mean, he's one of the more educated people in philosophy. But I think he uses it as a weapon, which Godless Girl does as well. Which I'm not a big fan of. But he's not wrong in a lot of things. He knows people don't understand these topics. And he uses that to his advantage when he calls him the Atheist Experience under Derek, because he does. I'll just get into an example. Like when he was trying to explain to Matt substance dualism and functionalism and some other things that Matt just has no idea. And when Matt doesn't have any idea, what does he do? Hangs up. And that was my point to the admin. I was like, Matt hangs up on people on difficult conversations. He's like, what's your evidence for this? I'm like, really? You want me to go back and check every link on the Atheist Experience for that, which is, I think people recognize by now that's what Matt does. But if you need a link, that's fine. I have one at the ready, which was Josh's. And now I have 2 because one was from Godless Girl. But, I mean, who argues that Matt doesn't hang up on people? I mean, that's ridiculous. All right, Godless Girl, can you message me on DM and Twitter or on Facebook, and I'll get you the link to join? It's just easier to get it to you that way. And Chetch, if you want in, I'll give you the link on Instant Messenger. All right. Well, let me get the link to Godless Girl first. So Godless Girl, it messages me on one of those places, and I'll get you the link right away. I mean, I have you on both, but I Hurry. I want to dive into this. Yeah, and by the way, Chess, I read your tweet. She says, I just did a stream about Matt, and now Steve is talking about ACA, bit of a double header. Funny how things work out sometimes. And by the way, absolutely unrelated, no offense. I mean, it just happened to work out that way, that you did one earlier today, and I'm doing one now. But yeah, yours was really good. Like I said, I left a comment on it, and I think you saw it, so... I think Matt really does tend to bog down these discussions by his ego rather than actively listen. He has no active listening skills whatsoever. Okay, where did I put the hangout? There we go. Okay, well, I got Chesh in here at least. Let me. I'm still waiting for God's Girl to message me somewhere. Well, I usually don't plan. I don't plan these. There we go. Godless Girl. Okay. Yeah, I don't plan. I'm not. I do things spur of the moment a lot of times. I mean, I have a couple different things we do. Like, well, obviously, Caffeine Corner's planned. And then, I have some shows that I know that I would be doing. But, like, this was just way out of the blue. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, which is perfectly fine. Yeah. Literally happened this morning after I Correct. Yeah, so you're basically telling everybody that we're pretty disorganized, which is fine. I'm not going to deny that. You are way more organized than I will ever be. I mean, I'm not going to even try to front otherwise. Yeah. Nice. Hi, Godless Girl. It's been a while. Hola, Namaste. Is it working now? Hello? Yes. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to turn your up there. There we go. Okay, now they can hear you. Okay, so go ahead. You said you were obsessing with Matt all day.
Yeah. Josh just called in Sunday. I don't think you saw the new one, did you?
Was it the one you have on your channel?
Yeah.
I have that one. Yeah. But the original one I was referring to is when he called in. What's that?
What's really bizarre is the fans come along and they'll be like, "Oh, that guy's so stupid. He wasn't answering Dillahunty's question. What the fuck? What?" Like they come because I've been posting about it all around all day.
Are we willing to bet money that they didn't understand what he was saying? And
I didn't even fucking understand what he said.
Probably made no sense.
Yeah. By the way, I want to make sure they can hear you guys now, so they should be able to hear Godless Girl just fine now. But yeah, I'm not talking to myself here. I'm not a solipsist. They say you are super quiet, but that's on your end, Godless Girl. Can you boost up your gain a little bit?
I've never used this app before. How do I fix that?
Maybe just talk close to the mic. That's fine. I can boost you up. I'll boost you up to 20 dB. That should do it.
Like, I didn't even understand Josh's argument. It was really complicated, but Matt just kept interrupting him and hung up.
Well, the second one, not so much. The first time Josh had called in under Derek, he had been talking about, he was basically trying to explain to him what's called source dualism, or basically substance dualism, and what's called functionalism, right? He's talking about the mind existing independent of the body from a non-naturalistic position. And Matt, just doesn't understand these terms, right? And he's like, well, can you demonstrate the mind independent of a body? But Josh is trying to argue the point that from the substance dualist position, that's what it would entail, right? I think Josh was kind of explaining these positions to him. But Matt, again, doesn't like philosophical discourse. And Josh, would you agree, really does know philosophy terms pretty well. Now, I honestly think Josh obviously is a Poe. I mean, because he calls under a fake name, but
that's not to make a comparison to like like Matt Dillahunty's way more advanced than Aaron Ross.
yes, yeah. Oh no, I will agree with that. Sure, yes. But I mean, Josh and you both tend to use philosophy to point out the inconsistencies and flaws in the radical atheist positions. That's the way I would probably state it. Because it's frustrating, because they're just as dogmatic as any religious group that I've seen. I mean, to me, the Atheist Experience group is just a dogmatic version of religion. That's all it is. I mean, they're a cult-like mentality. I've never seen anything so fundamental where I had literally people on Facebook denying classical logic. I mean, like legit saying that classical logic is wrong. And I'm like, well, at that point, you are, to me, such in an irrational state. How can I have a conversational dialogue with an inherently irrational person that doesn't accept basic logic? Am I wrong for thinking that?
No, I know. I totally agree with you. They get very emotional too.
Well, they're emotionally led people, right? They're not logically led. They're emotionally led.
When I first started out, and I didn't know anything, I did learn a lot from watching the Atheist Experience.
Did you?
Matt has even advanced from how he used to be back then, but then they stopped getting interested in progressing.
Again, we're on the same page, and I think Cheshire, is that something that you've experienced as well with Matt and the Atheist Experience? They just seem to want to stop progressing and basically shut down any kind of dialogue that they just deem not worthy of discussion or unable to discuss.
So the thing that I've noticed is, so I've never actually called into this is just something I sort of watch happen over time. There's a really big difference between the way the Atheist Experience behaved when it wasn't so dominated by one personality.
Good point. Multiple voices.
Right. When there was more people around, Matt used to not like hanging up on people. It was kind of the shtick, and then it became a shtick, and now it's like all they do. They became a one-trick pony. So they think that they only matter, or that they're only entertaining, and people only watch their show if Matt's there berating people and hanging up on people, which can have its place, but you need to do it well. And if you don't have anybody that can counter what Matt does, and they don't have that anymore. Now it's just so dominated. Like, think about when Tracy was on the Atheist Experience.
I was a big fan of Tracy, actually.
Matt would get frustrated, and Tracy would be like, hold on, let's see if we can walk through this. And she would follow their logic and try and parse out what was being said. And the thing is that Matt doesn't have that anymore, but I would also probably say that Matt doesn't want that anymore, because it's not like he would have that hard of a time finding somebody who could go back and forth with him.
Well, did you also notice that a lot of times Matt, when he had somebody like Tracy on, I think he felt like he was not in the limelight, like he was in the spotlight any longer?
Well, I'm thinking of more right before he was. And so, keeping in mind that there were so many hosts. There was Jen and Tracy and
Glasser.
The square head guy.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I suspect that they laughed behind the scenes because of the feminist bullshit.
Oh no, I know for a fact they did too. Look, I've got connections there, and I adore Eric Murphy. I talk to him, or I used to talk to him quite frequently, and of course I know Jamie. I mean, I know all the people over at Atheist Experience because I've been on their Discord. I was an invited guest on their Discord to have a Q&A. I mean, I know all the players on the Atheist Experience. They all know me clearly, right? I mean, many of them have actually been on my channel. Including Matt, but you're exactly right. That whole feminism type thing, the whole rationality rules fractured that community beyond repair.
It's bizarre to see who left and who stayed and why, from what I can tell, because it seems to be this weird. I'm not entirely sure how that fracture. Oh, I need to turn myself up. I'm gonna turn it
up on my end. I've got it. I've turned up your.
Oh, okay. I don't know what, like, I'm not really sure where the line was that made that distinction, because it seemed like people who thought that rationality rules was being transphobic stayed or left, But now I'm seeing Matt Dillahunty on Twitter brushing aside and demeaning a black woman because he knows better for about what's good in policy for the black community for some reason.
Yeah, and by the way, I thought you made a
It's
brilliant
bizarre.
point in your video on that, on the whole explaining equity versus equality.
Right. And like you got to keep in mind that when politicians are speaking, they're not necessarily talking as directly about what they're doing. They're trying to, if you try to placate to a community, it's going to come across to some of those people that it's demeaning, or they're talking down to you, or they're going to recognize that that's what's happening, and they might find that harmful to their communities, which is totally fair.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
wait.
agree.
Now I don't know the specifics of context of what you're referring to, but you said he brushed aside a black woman about what was better for the black community. I don't see if the black person's not always going to be right. Just like you see fucking women, you see women get brushed aside when they're trying to stick up for the men who are falsely accused of sexual harassment. The men
Yeah.
will brush the women aside to like
Yeah,
take
no,
down these innocent men.
Yeah, just because you're a person of color doesn't mean you're going to be 100% correct every time. That's not what I mean. He was brushing away her opinion and her argument without addressing her argument.
Which is what he
Because
does, though. It's not just towards her.
Right,
Yeah.
because he apparently knew better than she did. But the thing is that her argument was fine. Like, it was sound. Her reasoning and her opinion made sense, but Matt was in such a hurry to not read or listen to what she, and that's the problem. Even if you think that they're incorrect, if you're trying to help a community or a person with their problems, you need to listen to them. Even if you don't agree, you have to listen to them. Otherwise, you're never going to solve the problem. You're going to give them a solution. You're going to say, here, you have to listen to this solution, and they're not going to like you for it, even if you are giving them what you think is the best, because they should have a say.
Well, that's the whole
Right?
point, right? I mean, that's what they're trying to say is like, we need our voice heard for this particular thing. And if you're not listening to what their argument is, you're not listening to what their issue is, then you're not having a productive dialogue. And I think he just shuts down people, both mentally and literally shuts down people, because he always has control of the mute button. In any kind of dialogue where he doesn't fare as well. He just doesn't. I think he has to have that safety net, because when he gets over his head, just like this admin, and just like a lot of people I run into online, they have to have that safety net where they can shut down communication, which again, and Godless Girl has been around for half a decade or more. She knows that one of the things in the Great Debate community is that you can walk away from a conversation anytime for any reason. I stipulated that half a decade ago, right? I don't care if somebody says, look, I don't want to have your conversation, or I'm done with this conversation, I'm done. Okay, fine, move on, right? But you don't need to hang up on somebody. You don't need to physically mute them and say, look, I'm going to hang up on you because I can't address your argument. I'm happy to say, look, I don't understand your argument. I can get back to you on it. It's so mangled of an argument, I just don't even think it's worthy of consideration, which happens quite frequently as well. All right, so let's
it's kind of hard to say sometimes, because these things get really nuanced and really complicated. But if somebody says like, hey, here's my argument, and they say, well, prove it to me, and that's just become Matt's go-to every single time. Well, prove it to me. Well, prove it to me. Well,
dude, exactly.
I'm telling you how I feel about something. That's not how that works.
But here's the thing, Chesh. I literally have actual logical proofs. How much more proof can you get than a proof? I mean, that's like the most objective form. Somebody actually even said to me, well, proof isn't a demonstration. The fuck it's not. What do you think QED stands for? I mean, it literally is a demonstration. That what should be demonstrated.
If they don't understand what you're saying, then they assume that you're wrong.
Right, which is, I mean, in and of itself, intellectually dishonest. I mean, you know as well as I do, a lot of the players. Have you ever seen, and by the way, be honest, have you ever seen a person who knows philosophy say that I am completely hosed in my logical reasoning and my arguments? Ever?
No, of course not. Well, I mean, maybe back in your early science-obsessed days.
Well, science is science, but I mean, but even then, my biology has always been okay.
I want to ask you. So that's one of the reasons I have such disdain for the dishonesty, is because I actually used to be guilty of some of it in my earliest days.
I know you were.
I hate that about myself.
I know you were.
So I was gonna, like, do you think you were too?
No, I think I've always been, open-minded and intellectually honest. I
Could you
mean, if you
tell
have any
me
examples.
Matt did a good job against the Psi 10?
Yeah, no, I just said that
Sorry, I didn't mean to
earlier.
talk. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that that debate that Matt had with Cy 10 was very good, actually.
No. See, that's what I'm saying is you watched that back in your early days, and so did I. And I thought that Matt did a decent job back then. But if you go back and watch it now, you might think differently years later. I don't think Matt won that debate.
Well, okay, well, that might be the case. I mean, it has been a long time. But again, back then I didn't know Cy that back then. I don't think. No, I didn't know Cy back then. I've gotten to know Cy, and I think you've gotten to know Cy pretty well. I mean, in all honesty, he's kind of a nice guy. I just disagree with him fundamentally. I mean, who was the original people that started way back when showing how to fight against presuppositionalism? It was myself, you, Josh, Jack, Ozzy, Malpass. It was that group that we have said, look. Presuppositionalism has some fatal flaws to it. Let's try to see if we can explain to people what those flaws are. Or Floyd FP did a really good job on that as well. You remember Floyd?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I love presuppers is because they fucking beat up the dumbass atheists.
Well, because the presup is a weapon, right? If you're somebody who doesn't know the tactics they use, the presup is going to annihilate you.
Right.
Straight up.
But even after they've heard the argument many times, many of them still don't learn how to respond.
I agree. Oh, by the way, Darth Dawkins has kicked my ass many times, obviously. Darth Dawkins.
Oh, he wouldn't now though.
Do you know he actually said, and we'll get to the group here, the reason for this in a second here. But do you know that Darth Dawkins actually said that he and I have never had a on-air discussion? And I'm like, what? You were there in Nadia's Hangout when we used to talk. I mean, how much of a BS is that?
Right.
I mean, okay.
Discord every day.
I don't bother. All right, so you guys are gonna have to watch the outside because I'm not gonna be sharing the screen because I'll mess up my layout. But this was from the Atheist Philosophical Fan Group, by fans, for fans. Again, I don't even remember him even being in here before. But
fans of what? What are they fans of? Are they fans of the Atheist Experience philosophy or the philosophy of the Atheist Experience?
I have no idea at this point. I can't. If I leave this page, it's going to close because if you can see here, when I try to go to the page, I'm blocked. The content's not available. Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because I haven't blocked, but I kept the page open because again, I want a chronology and I want to show and demonstrate.
Along the same lines as saying that somebody is a Nazi baby killer. What do you mean?
I want this on record because again, this is what I've been saying a long time about the people that associate with these Atheist Experience people. It's a cult-like mentality. It is a dishonest application of these types of things because they do not want to have the discussions. And I was very polite too. I mean, to the admin, I was really odd. So can you guys read this from the outside? Is that legible, or do I need to make it bigger?
It's legible.
Awesome. All right. So I saw this link from this person named Laura McGee. And she says, in this video, I'm trying to my first stab at discussing very casual arguments, the kind you hear in day-to-day conversations. I discuss how I determine my response to the everyday God claim that is presented as truth. Gods are, quote, God answers my prayers. I know God is real because of my personal experience, and God's intentions are, quote, insert any intention. My thought is that we can have more productive responses, even internally, when we apply the proper weight to the claim rather than responding as though they just presented a fact and trying to prove them wrong. Do you have any tactics for responding to something that is no more than a claim? Do you let it go and ignore it, give it respect or consideration, or request evidence before engaging in discussion on the claim? I think those are all fair questions. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think this is a valuable thing for somebody to do because there's a really big difference between when you're discussing online versus when you're discussing with a family member or a friend versus when you're discussing from a more technical standpoint or a debate standpoint, or if you're just on a show that's designed to hang up on people.
Exactly. People have asked me, why have you never called it the Atheist Experience? Like, why would I? I mean, to be hung up on? I mean, for Matt to be unable to discuss any of my arguments? I mean, Matt has never been able to discuss my WASP argument or my gun and guard argument because he knows he's wrong on it. He's been told by actual experts, Steve's right on this. You cannot, if you're going to go after Steve, you're not going to do it on the logic. So he goes after me personally, right? I mean, and I find it to be, again, very dishonest. And Godless Girl, you've seen that firsthand as well, have you not? That Matt and a few of those people, if they cannot go after you on the intellectual level, on the arguments, they will personally attack you.
Yeah, and he'll straw. I noticed with the atheist experience too. He lots of times he'll be straw manning like if the caller is arguing about something other than the existence of God, he'll just and he doesn't know how to respond to it. He'll just start straw manning and say, "How does that prove God?"
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that's
because
not what the
like
discussion's
exactly.
about.
Well, that's what Chess said, right? Well, demonstrate God, prove your God. I get that all the time too, and I've noticed that that's like a default for lay atheists who don't know fuck all about anything. What they'll do is they say, well, you need to demonstrate your claim. Well, here's my logical proof. Well, can you demonstrate your proof is correct? What the hell are you talking about? It's like their go-to. I Godless Girl. I swear to you, I've had people tell me, "Can you prove God exists?" And I'm like, "Where's that my claim?" Have in all the years you've known me, just shy or two, have I ever said that God exists? And have I made that claim that you're aware of?
No, I think people misunderstand quite a bit what agnosticism is. So
I had somebody actually say, in your OP, you claim that God exists. And I'm like, where is this?
I've actually seen it go both ways. I've seen people say that because you're agnostic, you believe in a God, and I've seen people go, because you're agnostic, you're an atheist.
Right. No,
It's
and there's a reason for that, because a weak atheist and a weak theism and agnosticism are essentially the same logical position, because it's the conjoining of the weak and the weak atheism and weak theism. So yeah, I can see that, right? But it's just like, yeah, pick a lane, right?
Based on some of Matt Dillahunty's positions or arguments that he made, you could probably ascertain that he might actually be an agnostic.
No, Matt Dillahunty.
I don't think he is.
No, in his earlier XPs, in his earlier atheist experience, he has literally said there are no gods. He holds a position there are no gods.
Doesn't mean okay, but that's not what I'm saying. That's two different things. So Matt, one, could change his position. But two, the position that he's arguing from, it would be easy for somebody to misunderstand, right? His argumentation kind of falls under, well, none of the gods I've seen exist, so prove to me one of them does, and then I'll believe your God, which is kind of more of an agnostic sounding approach, especially to like a layperson.
Yeah, no, I completely see that. I mean, like talking with JB, he said that as well. Well, all the gods have been exposed to before. I'm like, that's just a really bad argument. I told him. All right, so real quick though, I mean, screw all that stuff. Somebody said, watch Matt Dillahunty videos. He's been at it 15 years. I gave some pushback. By the way, I did go to this person's video. I'll put it in the video description because I forgot, but her name is, here's right here. It's called Christian Claims Presented as Facts by Unapologetically ME.
This is the woman's video? Because I actually want to watch that.
Yeah, I'll put it in the video description here. Let me,
okay, cool.
Let me fix my screen here a little bit so you can actually see it. There we go. So this is the actual video, and this is the comment I made. I said more specifically. Well, you can go there and read it, but I said, this is a pretty good video, right? I mean, it's a pretty good video. And she replied, "Hi, Steve. Thanks for the subscribe and positive feedback." And I appreciate that, right? I mean, I'm not there to tear people down on their videos, right? I mean, if they have a good video, I'm like, okay, this was actually pretty decent, And she, I am subscribed. She presented them in a decent way. I mean, she's somebody who wants to get in the scene. I'm like, okay, I like helping new people, and I thought I'd give her quick critique, So that's cool, right? I don't see a problem with that. So, anyways, going back to here, and I said, look, Matt is horrible at this. He used to be okay, but now he's just dogmatic ideologue who hangs up on difficult topics. Honestly, I don't think that's even controversial. I mean, I think most of us have seen him do that. Am I out? And by the way, I do have evidence of this, but I mean, really, that I have the mod here, the admin. Did it get timed out? How did it? No.
Did you lose it, Steve?
I think I lost it.
No, you should have taken screenshots.
Well, somebody's gonna have to go to the group for me, I guess.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What's the?
It's still there, but
access to the group or what's it called?
How did I lose it? It just vanished. You saw it. It's called the Atheist Experience Philosophy Group, and then you can screen share. Things don't go away on the internet, do they?
Groups. Oh, there it is. Boop boop. Okay, so what's it under?
It was under Laura, under her post of Laura something or other.
Okay, yeah, no, I can see it. Do you want me to present?
Yeah, present it, and I'll just show you as the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll make it
I
big
don't think
here.
I have anything showing here that's inappropriate.
That's for the off-air stuff.
I'm gonna save the day.
Yay! Alrighty. Let me make it larger. Yes, this works.
Yeah, I can make it bigger if you want.
Yeah. It's amazing when, the internet doesn't forget things.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Okay, so we saw her post, right?
Yes.
And then you want to see Mark Shepardson?
No, the admin guy. I don't care about
anything. Jason Joel.
The admin's guy's name is Richard Gulliver.
Oh, okay, so that's buried in here somewhere.
Yeah,
6 more replies.
Yeah, I want to be able to show that I was actually literally in a response to him when I couldn't, it wouldn't let me add anything to it. And it's just like, okay, so he said respond, and I couldn't even get a response out, and he blocked me before I even had a chance to, which I find to be astronomically dishonest.
I found it. So this Mark Shepardson person said, watch Matt Dillahunty's videos. He's been at it for 15 years. Then Steve said, Matt is horrible at this. He used to be okay, but now he just is a dogmatic ideologue who hangs up on the difficult topics. Richard, whoever, said to Steve, I don't think he hangs up on the difficult topics. I think he hangs up on the frustrating topics. Yeah, but those could be the same thing.
Yeah, right? They're frustrating because they're difficult for him, Richard. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Am I wrong? I mean, what the hell?
So this, do you have any examples of something that you consider he finds too difficult to answer and therefore hangs up to avoid answering? Yes, he refuses to address my WASP argument and my Gumballs in God essay, even though both have been extensively read by experts in the field and Gumballs and God reviewed by world-famous mathematician Landon Kurt Knoll. He gets a lot of things wrong in his epistemology and just by fiat claims I'm wrong. I actually did a stream about that.
Mm-hmm. We did.
But has never once demonstrated that claim by showing my logical proofs to be invalid or unsound or any errors in my essays. Then you gave links to both of those things. Bracket, I have never called EXP to be hung up on, but Matt has been on my show before.
Yeah, I want to be honest. I've never called. I mean, I'm not arguing that he's hung up on me. Literally, figuratively, sure. Yeah, I'm trying to be clear. I mean, I don't want any ambiguity here, right? I'm not being dishonest by any stretch of imagination.
You're not trying to trick people into not liking Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect example of Matt being objectively wrong on the topic. Mark says he hangs up on people who don't define what they say.
Hang on, that's his bullshit. People have, look, when God, this whole nonsense of defying God, I mean, it's like, okay, first of all, God's discussion has been around for 2,000 of years. I mean, when we talk about God, we can make some stipulative type definition. I even posted in one of the groups, look, I'm just going to go by some creator being that whose existence, as a metaphysical necessity, whose non-existent would mean that the universe could not and would not exist, or some being that's ability to have prescriptively changed the laws of the universe. I think that's fine. I don't think you need to go too much detail than that, right? I mean, I think we all have some kind of idea. When we hear the word God, it is intelligible. It is a cognitive type proposition. So when we say God exists, that is a cognitive type proposition if you hold to that it could be true or false, right? I mean, it's a non-cognitive if you don't.
Josh? Right? Godless Girl? Isn't that what happened to Josh? He was defining and explaining things that he got hung up on.
Well, yeah, he didn't even get to give even a premise, I don't think.
Not in the second video. The first one he did. The first one.
Normative and non-normative stuff, he knew he didn't understand it, but he didn't want to ask him. He didn't want to say, oh, I don't understand what that means. Can you tell me? So he just pretend he just like straw man him and interrupted him and hung up.
Yeah, well, the first one that he called, well, I don't know if it was his very first time, but one of the times he called, he was talking about naturalism, right? And Matt was actually doing okay at the first part. Matt was correctly explaining there's a difference between ontological and philosophical naturalism versus methodological. I think we all agree about that. But Matt was, what Josh does is he runs kind of theist arguments. Josh is not a theist, okay, but he pretends to be. And he runs theist arguments. But he wants to see if the atheist is able to understand the theist argument and argue against it properly. They can't.
Right.
That's what Josh does. I mean.
Yeah, this last call, he was just
valuable.
arguing against. He wasn't even arguing against God. He was arguing against naturalism.
Yeah. And look, I'm not a fan of the method. I'm not saying that I sit and condone that kind of methodology, but I understand why Josh does it. Matter of fact, I understand, like, for example, you and Josh one time years ago, and I'm sure you remember when I had Aaron on one time, and you guys had been asking Aaron about Photo's argument against natural selection, which is a really good philosophical argument by an atheist. Photo's an atheist, but it requires a little bit of understanding of the argument about coextensive properties and intentionality and a whole bunch of other shit that Aaron clearly doesn't know. You guys know he doesn't know that. And so he defaults back into his biology saying, well, biology's been proven. You're like, yeah, but we're not arguing that. Well, natural selection occurs. You're like, yeah, but we're not arguing that. Photo's argument doesn't say natural selection doesn't occur. Right? Photo's argument is that it's not explanatory.
Against the wall.
Yeah. And Photo has a really good argument. It's based upon a very old philosophical argument. But you can't just hand wave his argument away like that.
Well, it kind of makes a demonstration, right? And that's also valuable to any atheist who wants to learn and wants to be better
Correct.
in their own field and be better at their own thing. Now, how you decide to go about it, you can agree or disagree about what's effective, what isn't effective, and it kind of depends on your goal, right? So
yeah, no, I completely agree. But and the whole thing breaks down to real simple. Photo's argument goes something very, very, very simple. But basically, it's like natural selection is not explanatory because it doesn't really explain anything. And the reason would be like, hey, Chesh, I'm going to tell you how to become a multimillionaire. Do you want to know? I'm going to tell you, and it's going to be the truth, right? You ready for this? Yeah, buy low, sell high.
Thanks.
It's true, is it not?
Thanks, I'm cured.
Right, but it doesn't tell you anything, right? It's not informative. It's not explanatory of how to make money, other than sure, you buy low, sell high.
The market and how to know what things to buy.
Exactly, and that's kind of
Listen, if you want to learn economics, watch the anime Spice and Wolf.
Anime's got an explanation for everything, doesn't it?
Anime's got an anime for everything.
Yeah. So, what was I watching the other day? They were like,
Anime's got an anime about anime.
No, somebody was saying something like they were asking what's the name of this anime, and they said My Name, and they said and they like gave the person's name, and it's like, no, that's the name of the anime, isn't it? My Name or something?
Oh, Your Name.
Your Name. That's it. Your Name. Yeah, they responded Your Name, and the person gave their name, and I was like, that's funny.
That is funny. I've got one where it was describe anime plots or anime poorly. I saved it because it killed me. It was probably one of my favorite things I have ever read. And so it's crippled midget tries to get his brother's body back with a rock made from genocide. Explain an anime plot badly. It's Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. One of the very few I actually maybe occasionally watch back when and in your washer. But all right, so continue on here, please.
Makes me happy.
Because this guy is so off base.
He hangs up on people who don't define what they say. Most people who call have an odd view of what God is. I don't think they do, but okay. If they can't assign attributes or a name to this God, then it can't be discussed.
That makes no sense to me. First of all, they do have labels for that God, Yahweh, Allah.
I do remember somebody calling him and saying that God was love, and it was like, oh, okay.
That's kind of a naturalistic fallacy kind of thing in some ways. But I mean, the problem is that sure, you can ascribe attributes to the being that you think exists, right? Omnibenevolent, omnipotent, omnipotent. These are attributes, right? The question is, is there an object that those reference properties have a referent to, right? Is there some kind of object that is tangible, or are they merely abstract concepts, right? So when you're talking about God, the theist is saying, look, I posit there actually is a being with these properties. The atheist, if they're intellectually honest, just say, look, I understand those properties, but those properties don't ascribe to any tangible object. Like, for example, if I say Superman can fly, I'm ascribing the property of being able to fly to Superman. That doesn't mean that I think Superman actually has an ontological presence.
Correct.
And I think a lot of atheists don't understand that. And they're afraid to talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's...
If you want to know more about that, watch Steve's Sunday School from Sunday.
Thank you. Good plug. Thank you.
At Steve, you made the claim. I like how it shows that you're blocked.
Is that what it means? I thought that was
That's what that...
Oh.
So if I hover over anybody, it shows me like their stuff, right? But if I hover over you, it has this
you're seeing I won't be able to respond.
Here.
He gave me like a second warning, but I was in the middle of responding when he blocked me, and I'm like, okay, you're just dishonest, man. I'm not even going to play this game. I'm going to just go on air and show that you were dishonest. I don't care if you watch or not.
Gulliver.
I think it's Scottish.
You made the claim that Matt hangs up on the difficult topics. I asked you for an example of this, and it turns out that you have difficulty with Matt and, in fact, have failed to present what you claimed and what I specifically asked for. Wait, what is this?
And I was going to include Josh's, the videos I got this girl's talking about with Josh. I have 2 of those. Yeah, I gave him, yeah, exactly. I mean, I gave him, evidence of that. And then I actually said, well, I haven't called, but I mean, there was evidence of obviously of him hanging up on Josh, and I was going to give that. I mean, do people...
you never claimed that you were the one that got hung up
right,
on. You said he hangs up on difficult topics.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, does anybody disagree with that? I'm curious in the live chat. Does anybody think that Matt doesn't hang up on people when it comes to difficult topics? If please come on and join me if you do.
One, I will ask you the question again. This time, perhaps you can demonstrate your claim. 2, Matt being objectively wrong on a topic is irrelevant to the claim that you made.
No, it's not.
3, if you want to air your unsubstantiated grievance against Matt, then please do so on your own platform.
Like now? Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Take this as a first warning. Either retract or substantiate the claim that he hangs up on people to avoid answering difficult questions.
Wow, so demanding,
which
right?
Calls has he hung up on then? Why is it relevant that a world-famous non-philosopher reviewed your balls analogy? That's clever.
Because he's an actual expert in logic as well. I mean, I mean, hello?
Blah, 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 blah.
I mean, he worked for Cisco and he helped develop the internet. He understands building logic, I assure you.
Oh, here we go. 1, I will ask you the question again, this time demonstrate. You want me to actually list every time he has hung up on someone, such as when he hung up on Derek, who is really named Josh, or realistic nihilist.
People know that, by the way. I'm not dogging. People knew this.
Substantiate dualism or functionalism, and Matt was not understanding. I mean, I am sure I can find these clips if you would like. 2, Matt.
Well, hang on, do this one at a time. So I'm being polite there, right? I'm like, hey, look, if you want me to actually find these clips, I'm more than happy to do so. I actually have them at the ready now, but I mean, do people think that I have every episode of the Atheist Experience at my fingertips? Is that reasonable?
Well, the question is like they want you to demonstrate your claim, which to me, so I think the Atheist Experience uses it a little bit differently, the term demonstrate, because what you did when they asked you to demonstrate was you explained. What they were asking you for was a direct clip.
Yeah, I think that's intellectually dishonest. I gave an explanation that is the explanatory reasons of why I'm substantiating my claim.
Well, you're saying he hangs up on people on difficult topics. They said, demonstrate your claim. And you said, here's where he's wrong and what he refuses to address. Right. And I
offered to find the actual evidence for it.
And see if he hangs up or not. But that's not what they were asking for. But not that you were wrong. It's just that they didn't understand what you were saying. And you didn't understand what they were asking, because what they were asking for was like a direct clip example of him doing that. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. No, I think you're right.
I want to let Godless Girl talk for a minute because we haven't heard much from her. Also, I need to pee.
All right. Hope everything comes out okay. Godless girl. You still there? Maybe she's not there. Hang on. Let me check. Is she in the call still? Nope, she's not on the call. Okay, so that explains that. So let me show this then while we're doing that, I guess. So there's. Let's see here. All right, so these are the videos that we're talking about. This was Godless Girl's video. Matt Dillahunty gets owned and hangs up on Josh, where he hangs up on Josh. I don't think he was understanding the argument. And then this one especially, this was when Derek had called. Derek had called, which is Josh. On evolution fails and God has no explanatory power, right? And this was a perfect example of him hanging up on him because he didn't understand what Josh was trying to argue as far as God having explanatory power. And the funniest thing is that we had a discussion on this on Agree to Argue with Dr. Rana, right, on his channel. You know, plug for my other show right there, Agree to Argue. Go check it out. But you know, me and Dr. Rana, we talk about a subject once a month. And one of the subjects we had talked about was, you know, does God actually explain anything? Is there explanatory power there that came up? And I think there's an argument to be had there. And I think this is related to what, you know, many people have said, you know, what is the explanatory power of God? And even though I didn't agree with Josh's argument, I was following along, and he was trying to explain substance dualism in this particular case. And from that perspective, Josh was at least coherent. He was at least consistent, right? And that's what I look for. I look for consistency. There's a difference between saying, "Hey, look, your argument is wrong because you're not using these terms correctly, and you have an inconsistency logical in your system, an inconsistent logical system," or opposed to, "Look, these are how these terms are used normatively in philosophy. This is what I'm ascribing to. This is what I'm relating to." I don't have a problem with that, right? Josh knows these terms, so when Josh is relating to somebody what a substance dualist is, and he's explaining it correctly. From a theist perspective, which he's faking, but whatever. But he's explaining correctly. Matt doesn't have the skill set, it seemed, to understand what the hell Josh was saying. I should say Derek was saying, and he hung up on him. I watched this clip, you know, a couple times, and if you go check it out, you'll see that he was not really understanding what Derek was trying to come from, but he was relating a theist perspective on I think he was trying to relate substance dualism. Now, again, I haven't talked to Josh on this, but it just seemed to be that was his argument, and maybe what's called functionalism. But okay, so let's go back to
It's also possible that when you said, "Oh, do you actually want me? Do you want me to actually list all of these?" They might have read that as sassy, and it might have been a little sassy. Like, really, this is what you want?
I don't know. Did people? I don't know if people saw that, by the way. Oh well. I don't think I showed it. But anyways, those are the
I can have Josh put the argument into a syllogism, and then we can go post it in that group and see how they respond. Because
knock yourself out. I mean, is Josh with you right now?
He's not in the same room. He's here in the house.
Can you just ask him real quick if he was trying to describe to on his argument about naturalism, he was trying to describe to Matt some form of substance dualism or functionism? Would you ask him that?
He won't. He won't fucking. He's telling me to get the fuck out. I just try to go in there.
Okay. I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
Look at the description on there. Look at the description of the group. Scroll back up, Cheshire. Like, this group has been created. Yeah, I see it. This group has been created to discuss metaphysics, ontology, and epistemology from a philosophical standpoint. They can't even defend. They probably should be able to define that those words. I went into the street epistemology Discord server once, and they told me this: epistemology was not the study of knowledge.
No, hey, what? That's exactly what it is.
It was a mod too.
Wait. Is this Tajil's group? It was this Tajil, right? Oh my God! I didn't even recognize it. This group was actually created because of me, if I'm not mistaken. Because they didn't. Yes, they remember when they kicked me out of the Atheist Experience group themselves. Wright created this group because he got tired of people discussing it over there. So she created this group pretty much for me over here.
You should get.
And I did that video with Tangel, and
you should get in contact with this person then and be like, "Yo,
this is hilarious."
Oh my god, no way. Okay, small world,
right? And I like her.
Okay.
You know.
You're at part 2. 2. Matt being objectively wrong on a topic is irrelevant to the claim you made. Oh wait, blah, 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 sorry, I'm still talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just messaged.
Matt being objectively wrong on the topic is irrelevant to the claim you made. How is it irrelevant? Matt avoids having the difficult topics he is not prepared to talk about. Hell, there was the clip that I played of him on Twitch saying that languages are bitch and so is Steve, because without addressing your argument at all.
Yeah, I mean,
which what's that called again?
I think that's pretty much
without addressing your argument. I'm pretty sure that's actually.
I think that's ad hom. Yeah, when you say, "Look, Steve's wrong," basically saying I'm wrong because I'm language's bitch, you know. Which is pretty insulting, right? It doesn't address my argument. That would be ad hom. Somebody else earlier said, I said, look, you're just on a level that I want to have a discussion with you. And they're like, well, that's ad hom. I'm like, no, it's not. Learn the fallacies properly. All right, continue on. I'll let you know if Tangel gets back to me. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that she started that group because he just got sick of me talking. And by the way, Tangel Wright agrees with me on most of this stuff. We've had her on. You know, she knows my logic's right.
He didn't say that you were language's bitch. He said that you were their bitch.
Yeah. Yep. I love that when Goddess Girl says that. Who was it that said epistemology didn't deal with the study of knowledge? I got to see that.
The Street Epistemology group.
It was a mod in the Street Epistemology server.
Oh god! And I've had Anthony Magnabosco on. He's a nice guy. Actually, really genuinely nice guy, and I think he really does want to have these discussions. I really do think he has an interesting approach for undermining justificatory conditions for dosastic claims. But you know, its system has some quirks to it, and it needs a little tweaks. And he was willing to listen. Ocean and I and Ozzy kind of weighed in on that and gave him some positive feedback, which he took on board, and I really respect that. But a lot of people that do Swiss epistemology, I don't think they understand what the hell epistemology even is. Case in point. I mean, who the hell says epistemology isn't the study of knowledge? That's like saying biology isn't the study of life. Yes.
Okay. How is it irrelevant? Matt avoids having the difficult topics he is not prepared to talk about and has control of the mute and hang up button at will, which is prerogative. You saying he does not. And 3, if you want to air your unsubstantiated grievances against Matt, then please do so on your own platform. I have multiple platforms to do so, and I do have multiple platforms of my own. So you're saying criticism with evidence, Matt is objectively wrong, is not allowed here. And he said, is there any errors in my essay, Gumballs and God? And he is a mathematician who is an expert in logic, which my essay details. I'm willing to bet that this person doesn't know that mathematics deals with logic.
Apparently not. And by the way, we have pointed to the McRae-Landon Venn diagram. Actually, it should be a McRae-Knoll, and I was going to change that. I actually I talked to Landon the other day because we had a stream. And he pointed out it should be the last name. I didn't even think about it. It's actually McRae-Knoll Venn diagram, but I had to go package it and fix it. So.
Then the mod responded, I'll ask you the question. Oh my god, why is he quoting it like this? I'm sure I can find the clips. Yes, I'd like the clips, please, as that is what you were asked to demonstrate specifically. They weren't specific enough, so no, but okay. Do you have any
that post is so long. You know, that's what they fucking do, is they respond with all these rabbit trails, and then if you don't go like follow them down the rabbit trails in these long posts, that's why I can only debate in voice.
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out, by the way, because I had that same problem in another Facebook group that I'm in, and I said, look, can we just go live on this, because this is comedy gold. You mean if I give you the proposition God exists, what's the negation of that?
God does not exist.
He said that's wrong. And I'm like, how the fuck is that wrong? I said, if God exists as the proposition, then its negation is it is not the case that God exists, or ostensibly just God does not exist. That is basic logic. And he's like, no, that's not it. That's wrong. And I'm like, okay, we got to go on air on this, because he was going by like rabbit trail by rabbit trail and all these different things. I'm like, no, dude.
What's the fucking negation of it? Is there a third fucking option?
No, I love this. This is what he said. He said the negation would be not P, exclamation mark, equal sign, God exists. So all he says is, so basically, if the proposition is God exists, then not P does not equal God exists. I'm like, well, no shit. Who the hell thinks that the negation, not P, is going to be equal to the same proposition as P? That, I mean, I don't even know why you would point that out as something so trivially true. But that's not the proposition of the negation. The proposition of the negation is God does not exist. That's just fundamental. And by the way, the owner of the group, who I happen to know, came in and said, yeah, that's actually right. You know? And I'm like,
Hey,
there you go.
Hey,
Yeah.
I just noticed something.
Yes. Right.
If you want to look real quick at this, I'd like the demonstration that he hangs up to avoid answering specific questions because he finds it too difficult, rather than asserting that case. But if you look right here, yes, I'd like the clips, as that's what you were asked to demonstrate specifically, and then they quote the thing the person asked. Do you have any examples of something you would consider he finds too difficult to answer?
There's no clip there that he asked for.
And therefore hangs up to avoid answering. They didn't ask for clips. They
Exactly.
asked for examples of things you think he finds too difficult to answer.
And I gave my example of Josh.
Just you actually did the thing you were specifically asked to do, and the mod is a dumbass.
Right.
And he just this mod legitimately just undid his own argument by putting that quote there.
These mods are incompetent. This is what I'm saying. Other than Tandra White, she's actually pretty good. But most of the mods I run into, and most of the people that I deal with, the Atheist Experience, are completely just mind-bogglingly incompetent when it comes to critical thinking. Now, not all of them. Again, look, I like Eric Murphy.
So the mod is complaining that you're not answering when you answered the thing, and then makes a berates you for it, and then asks you for a demonstration, which you said you'd be willing to give if that's what they were asking. This, by the way, is your second warning to provide an example or retract the claim. So they're giving you a second warning, even though you did the thing the first time. Correct. And now they're asking you for something new, and they're explaining, they're taking you asking for clarification as some kind of argumentative. These people seem to have a chip on their shoulder.
Because they don't understand these topics, and they want to find a way to shut it down. And by the way, yes, Icarus is moving the goalpost.
Used to debate Matt on modern day debates.
Well, first of all, Matt would never debate me. He's already made that very clear, and I have no intention of doing so. I've debated what 5 times? How many times have I been on modern day debate? I mean, quite a few. The problem is that the people on that channel don't understand these topics very well, and I love James. Don't get me wrong, but I need more moderation. Because
you would need more mod.
Yeah. I mean, nothing against James at all. I mean, he's a great guy. It's just that he knows I'm not a fan of his moderation style, and that's fair. I mean,
he has a way of doing things that wouldn't be conducive to productive, at least in this particular instance.
Yeah, and I would never ask. I'm not G-man. Debate me, man. You're scared to debate me. No, I'm not like that. But I have pointed out that it is a fact, an objective fact, that as of to date, Matt has never properly addressed my arguments. He just hand waves them away. And if anybody shows any evidence, matter of fact, the last time Matt tried to adjust something, he just showed a video by somebody else. I'm like, and that video was wrong, obviously, but he didn't even explain the video. It's just he's been told that my arguments are logically good, so he's like, where is he going to come at me from? What would be the debate?
So the mod screws up number 2 also by Matt being objectively wrong on the topic is what makes it difficult. Why would that be irrelevant? That your claim that he hangs up to avoid difficult subjects, whether he is right or wrong about the subjects, has no bearing, whether or not he finds them difficult. Yeah, it does. Matt avoids having the difficult topics he is not prepared to talk about. So you keep saying, I'm awaiting a demonstration of this. Take this as your third and final warning. This isn't the same one. You can't do that.
This guy is the most incompetent mod I've ever seen. But this is what they have for these groups nowadays.
No, Godless Girl is 100% correct. They wrote out a big thing that is counterintuitive, going against their thing and using their one thing to be when you ask for clarification. It's like, we're warning you.
Yeah.
Okay, can you
Yeah,
clarify?
wait till you get to the end, because this is what I was responding to when I realized I couldn't respond. I think this was
So
the exact
you can't
post.
even respond to their giant diatribe. Okay, if I was the person running this group and I saw this post right here would be removed, and this mod wouldn't be a mod anymore.
Well, I think Tangiel, I mean, I'm pretty sure she's the one that
I
started.
would keep a screenshot of it and be like, this, and I would send them a screenshot of this and say, this is why you were removed as a mod, and then I would post it to publicly shame them for being a mod on my Facebook page that says, if you want to be a mod here, don't do shit like this. You're embarrassing my group.
Right? Yeah, because Tangiel, right, she likes these topics. She's a fan of mine. So, I mean, it's just like...
If I was Matt, I would be embarrassed that somebody was doing this.
That's the problem. Matt's not, and Matt doesn't care that these people are, you know, I mean, again, it's a fan group, so I'm not going to hold this specifically against Matt, but it's indicative of the atmosphere that Matt fosters.
Right. Yeah, I just know nobody thinks that Matt is like telling people to behave this, like dictating what they're doing.
No, I don't think he even watches this group. I don't know if he's even in it.
It's the fruit of his labor. We'll put it that way.
Works for me.
This is your take this as your third and final warning. He has the control of the mute button, doesn't he? Him having control of the mute button and hang up button is not evidence that he uses them to avoid topics he finds too difficult. That wasn't the question. Okay. If you want to air unsubstantial blah blah blah, I have multiple platforms blah blah blah. No, criticism is allowed, however moderator decisions are final, and as you've made a specific claim that an admin has asked you to substantiate, which you've avoided doing in favor of simply repeating and adding criticism to Matt, then you are not accepting those moderator's decisions, and that is against the rules. That didn't happen.
Oh yeah, I saw that. When I just tried to join that group just now, it wanted me to answer all these questions and read this long list of rules, one of which is you can't question the mod's decisions.
You've criticized Matt, yet you have yet to provide evidence that you were specifically asked to present and to show that he is objectively wrong. You did that. That's what all these links are. Right at the beginning. This your first answer is those things. This person's a dumbass. This person doesn't know how to read. This is a very long-winded way of explaining to people that you can't read.
It is pretty bad. I mean, again, this is somebody supposedly who they put in charge of an admin thing. That's just. Look, I admit we all have some shitty admins sometimes, but I try to weed them out. But damn, this guy's just incompetent.
You got blocked as you were writing a response to this, right?
I believe so. Yes. Okay,
so look at this last paragraph. Please do so. They're asking you to do so.
Yes, that was the one. Yeah.
Let me remind you that you have received your final warning. If you fail to substantiate your claim with the specific evidence that you've been asked for in your next response, asking you to respond, your membership from the group will be terminated.
And how many hours ago was that? How many hours ago was that?
4.
4 hours ago. What's a reasonable? And by the way, this was I was like doing this for like an hour now.
Okay, I would say, what is a reasonable amount of time for you to go through a bunch of watch full episodes of the Atheist Experience, which is what, a 2-hour-long show?
Yeah.
And get the specific ones you're looking for and get the time clipped out, and that's assuming that you're going to actually just provide timestamps and not actually just provide like a clipped together thing. Like I think it would be. Again, Shriek Feline said, final warning with 2 warnings at once without a chance to even prevent that third warning. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So supposedly, because I blocked somebody that I don't know if it was a moderator or not, but again, normally you just say, look, you blocked a moderator. Correct it because somebody there was just bad, and they said you weren't blocked for not responding. You were blocked for blocking. This is what he told me. You weren't blocked for not responding. You were blocked for blocking a moderator. Okay, well, did I know they were a moderator? Let me explain to you how you moderate. If you blocked a moderator and you're unaware of that because it doesn't always show their symbol, you say, hey, you blocked a moderator. You can unblock them. That is how you run a group. You fucking retard.
What? So you blocked this guy?
And by the way, I do use that word in certain cases.
Where does it show that he's a moderator? I'm hovering over him right now.
This person is diminished capacity when it comes to being able to adequately do admin functions. I mean,
I legitimately didn't. When you said the moderator, I didn't know who. Like, I had to.
I don't know who I blocked as a moderator. I did block somebody, but I didn't know if they were a moderator or not.
Was it? I don't know. Like, there's no indication to me on who is a moderator.
I blocked one person again. But again, how would I know if they're moderators?
Wait, why did you block someone though? Why?
Oh, I don't know. There's a line, there's a baseline that's so much I don't even want to bother, right? I mean, there are people that on Facebook that I just block because they're not even at a level I want to engage with, and some of them happen to be in groups that I'm in, and maybe they might be a moderator. But then again, you tell people, hey, you blocked a moderator and blocked them, and I'd be okay with that.
Found it. I have a great idea. I'll just block you so you don't have to see it. Take care.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Wait,
right?
This is 2 hours ago.
Oh, was it?
So you did respond after this then?
So but yeah, I responded, but then I was going to respond to. I responded to him, but then I was going to respond to the other guy.
Right.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. So you were having another side conversation and hadn't gotten back to this one yet. And by the time you got back to that one.
Yeah, and he says, and by the way, I never got when I got blocked. Usually you get a feedback. I didn't get any of that. He says, I literally explained this to you. No, where? Are you so dishonest that you're not even going to acknowledge that you literally fabricated a reason to broadcast your hatred for Matt by pretending you've been removed from a group for disagreeing with them? Well, no, I never said I was removed because I disagreed with Matt. I was removed because he was asked for evidence that I gave him. I was going to give him more, which was the links, and I was removed before I had a chance to do so. And now he's messaging me saying, well, you're removed for blocking an admin. Did I know this? This is the first I've heard of this.
There's no indication that this person is an admin. None.
Well, okay. Okay. Well, all you got to do is go into members, and I'll tell you who the admin is.
Well, it was this guy. This is the guy you.
Yeah. Go into the group. Go into members, and I'll tell you where the names of the admins.
There's that guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did I know this? By the way, does this show as he's an admin on your end?
It doesn't show he's an admin on my end.
Yeah. So it doesn't even have that symbol, which, by the way, we know for sometimes it doesn't have that symbol. So how are we supposed to know this?
Well, I'm not in the group. I don't know if it will show if it's in the group.
Yeah.
Like if I
it didn't show on my end that I'm aware of. But again, the responsible thing an admin does is say, hey, look, you blocked an admin. Can you correct that? Right?
Yeah,
if that's one of the rules. I understand that.
Well, that would be granting charity, which they're not doing here, obviously.
Obviously not.
But there's also like this guy is being a dick to you.
Correct. And he says that's petty, sad, and petty. Then he blocked me on Facebook, which is fine. But I'm like wait a minute here. So
it's petty, sad, and petty that you did the thing you did. Yes, correct.
Yes!
Don't talk about me talking about you.
Oh, man.
You should actually, if you know the person who formed the group,
Tangel,
you should reach out to them.
No, I already did. I messaged her. Yeah, I messaged. She's a busy person, but I'd be like, so I got blocked and I get it. So this admin says I got blocked for blocking an admin.
Is accusing you of being a narcissist while saying no offense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
And then they're not engaging with the conversation that you're having. They're literally just trying to shut you down and bully and like basically talk over you, so you don't actually address what gets said by the other admin. So essentially it's the admin playing two games, right? The one admin is like, your next response needs to be an answer to me, while this other admin is trying to bait you into a conversation over here so you don't get to this admin right away so they can kick you out.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not a big group. I got my the Great Debate Community Facebook is bigger group and it has much better discussions than this group.
You also said out loud that you were going to do this. If that other mod was actually moderating and watching this, that other mod should have noticed this and said, hey, listen, don't block this guy. He's a mod, but also tell this guy to fuck off.
Yeah.
That's what should have happened.
Yeah. A magic jar for £5. The negation of guilty is not guilty, not innocent. The negation of belief in God is not there are no gods, merely that you don't accept them. No, that's not true. The negation is on the proposition, not the predication. right? So the negation of the proposition God exists is on the negation of the propositional content, not the epistemic disposition towards the proposition. So if the proposition is God exists, and the negation of that is God does not exist, and then you predicate that with belief, you have believes God does not exist. Godless girl, agree?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you believe about it.
Yeah,
God
it's
exists,
basic
God exists, it does not
epistemology,
exist.
logic. I mean, so when you say the negation of guilty is not guilty, that's true, right? Not guilty. If you believe the person's not guilty, then the negation of the proposition still is not guilty, but you believe them not guilty. You believe the proposition guilty is false.
Right.
So if you believe the proposition God exists is false, you're saying there are no gods. Right? Dara, did you get that? So you merely not accepting the claim is not the negation, because you have a scope error, it's called. You're trying to negate the predication rather than the propositional content. A very common occurrence mistake.
You know, before.
But thank you for the super chat.
The definition of atheism stuff. Before I even get into that, I bait them. They almost always will agree if I say, "Do you think it's more likely than not that no gods exist?" And they say, "Yeah," and then they're committed to that because that's a probabilistic claim. So
right, but be careful, because you can say it's more likely, but that doesn't mean that you have been convinced, right? I mean, I could say it's more likely there's no God and not be an atheist, right? I could tend toward one position or the other and not commit to that particular position. You got to be real careful on that. But by the way, I don't know if you saw, but I had 10 questions. I was going to use it this morning on talking with JB, but I didn't get a chance to. But maybe I'll do it here. I'll kind of do a quick thing when we get done with this, to see what you guys think of it. Because the people that responded to me are they're responding very ignorantly when they're saying, well, no, that's not the negation of P. Of course it is. I mean, if P is God exists, then not P is, it is not the case that God exists. It's simple stuff.
I'm gonna take off now that you were able to get your thing showing.
Yeah, that's all I need with that. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, cool. You have fun. I'll talk to you guys later.
I appreciate it. Let me
did you know you have an active group on MeWe?
I do, but I don't use it much.
Well, you don't have any mods though. Can you give me mods? You don't. There's nobody in there. I mean, there's 400 something people and it's active every day.
Is it really? I know people. Yeah, I know people are in there, but I don't do much.
I haven't been on there in 2 years. It says.
Well, I don't think it's been that long. I was just on the other day, where my ex-girlfriend's mom added me, and I added her, so I just on there. It was like last week she added me on MeWe. So let me do this real quick, and then I'll make you a mod on there if I can figure out how to do it. No offense, I just don't know how.
Oh, I'll message you on there. So when you sign on, you'll see my message.
Can you see the outside there? This is my thread reader.
I don't see you. Oh, like from the live chat?
Yeah. You're going to have to follow on the live chat. It's just easier if you don't mind. All right. So, by the way, have you guys agreed that this is a pretty shitty mod? This is a dishonest mod. I mean, if there's anybody out there who doesn't agree with that, that's fine, but I'd like to know why. So, again, you guys know, I just want to know your opinion. One, do you think this guy was bullying and not being honest and was looking for an excuse to bump me? Or two, do you think that he was a fair moderator? Let me know in the live chat. All right, so this is a question flow chart that I was going to use on JB Tweets this podcast this morning, but I didn't get a chance to. He showed my flow chart, if you guys remember that. But I wanted to see if I could kind of do a more of an algorithm type thing and see if I get to the conclusion. Again, this is a work in progress, so it has errors. It's fine. I'm not saying this is a fully correct. I don't know, but that's why I was testing it out. But maybe I can test it out with you, Godless, in the live chat. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, question flow chart.
Who is JB? By the way, I don't know who that is.
He has a channel called Talking with JB. I'll put the link in the video description. Go check it out. It was a really good discussion today on agnosticism.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, press 1 if you don't think it was fair. 2 if you think it was fair. Do the ones. All right. So, given P equals God exists. Now, the funniest thing was I actually had one person say, "Well, you're making the assertion God exists." I'm like, "No, I'm not. When you say given, that means you're offering it up as a proposition, right? You're not affirming this proposition because, like, well, in your OP, you say that God exists. I'm like, I'm not affirming the proposition. I'm saying given if the proposition is this. He didn't understand that, Godless Girl. how bad do you have to be at logic to not get something that
what
simple?
was the response?
They said in your OP you were claiming that God exists. I'm like, where? And they showed that. I'm like, that's not a claim. I'm not claiming P is true.
Then what happened?
They didn't understand it. They just kept reiterating that, and I'm like, oh my God, look. That's why I block certain people. There's certain people that are just so ridiculously bad that I'm not going to sit there and waste hours on end. I'll give them some of my time, and then after a certain point, I'm going to block them on Twitter and Facebook and deal with the people that I can get through to. I'm sorry, I cut people out. I cultivate people that want to learn. I call people that don't, because I've recognized, and it's unfortunate, that there are people that just will not learn or refuse to learn, and why waste time with them? Why? It's just my operating level.
It's frustrating and entertaining. Sometimes I do it because it's entertaining sometimes.
No, and I understand that. Look, I'm again, to each his own, right? But there's just certain times I'm just like, I'm not going to bother with this person. All right, so we're going to be like, yeah, I know, Paul. He's like, it's fucking stupid. This is beyond him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you tell me that I'm asserting God exists because I'm offering for a conditional, saying that let's assume the proposition is this. That's not affirming the proposition, for God's sake. All right. But okay, so number one, do you agree that if you accept P as true, that is theism? Got us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you guys can follow along on the outside. Let me know, you guys don't have to agree. Just let me know when you disagree. I guess it'd be easier. All right. Number two, do you agree every proposition has a logical negation such that P or not P, and this is a triple bar meaning stronger than equality, is T, where T stands for tautology here, or true, but it's just tautology. So P or not P is tautological.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you agree that the negation of P is not P?
Yes.
All right, so far, I think there's a pretty straightforward, right? I'm not trying to like fool anybody here. Okay.
Right. You believe that it has to be either the case that God exists or God doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that you know which one
or believe each one. Yeah.
Belief.
Yeah. Ontologically, God exists or God does not exist. There's no middle ground to be had.
Right.
All right. So number 5, do you agree affirming not P that is atheism? Else, what would you call it? This is where they start balking. Number 4 and 5, and they say no, and it's like, well, wait a minute here. So if you affirm the negation, that's not atheism? Then what position is it? Nobody's answered this question, by the way. Anybody who's disagreed with this has not been able to answer this question. What would you call the position of affirming the negation other than atheism? Do you have any suggestions?
No.
I don't either. I don't know what you would call that position. If you have a term, if somebody has a term for it, please let me know. But I don't know what else you would call it. Okay.
A non-theist.
Well, okay, you know what? That's actually true. A non. Well, no. Well, yeah, they are non-theists,
well, no,
but
because then they're going to equivocate on
right.
non-theists, because then you could be like a pantheist or something.
Right. Because the problem is that not all non-theists affirm the P, right? Not all.
But they're
affirm not P.
But that's just going to be equivocation because they're redefining God to make it so that it's something else. But if we're talking about the P, the God that's P in that proposition, then even a pantheist would say not P.
Yeah, I agree, because it's yeah. But the point being is that if you affirm the negation of the proposition, I don't know how, it would be non-theism, yes, but a subset of that would be atheism. An atheist that says, that affirms. Look, if I say there's no gods, that's pretty atheism. So, yeah, Amir points out correctly. While atheists are non-theists, not all who are non-theists are atheists. That's 100% true. All right. So number 6, if you agree affirming not P would be atheism, then do you agree that not P is the proposition of atheism?
Yeah, if you're asking me, sorry, I had to pause the YouTube to go along, so
yeah, that's fine.
But I'm not on the same screen as you, but yeah, I agree with that.
I'll scroll up a little bit ahead of time, so it could catch up. Yeah, because if you say that, look, if I say not P is atheism, then the proposition of not P is God does not exist, right? So that'd be the proposition of atheism. Number 7, if you agree not P is the proposition of atheism, since affirming it is atheism, then it follows that the converse, atheism is the proposition of God does not exist.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it seems as something to be naturally flowing to me. If not P, if believing the proposition is false, then the proposition God does not exist would be the proposition P at that point. It would be the proposition of atheism.
Right.
Okay. Number 8, if you agree the converse of atheism is the proposition God does not exist. Actually, you know what? That should say the converse of theism, shouldn't it?
Oh wait, converse means
Yeah,
negation?
yeah. Let me see. If you agree the converse is atheism. Oh, okay. No, I remember how he put it. Yeah, if you agree the converse of the proposition is atheism, I'm referring back to 7. So the reference is 7. Is the proposition God does not exist? Then believing not P is a necessary and sufficient condition for atheism. In other words, if you believe there are no gods, that is a necessary and it's a sufficient condition. Now, people can argue on this one if they want. They can say, well, it's necessary. Well, no. Well, they say it's well. Let me see here. Necessary and sufficient condition. Let me think here on this one. I'm mulling this over my head. Well, it's definitely sufficient, right? They may be able to argue if it's necessary or not. As a lack of belief person, I'm trying to be charitable here.
If they're affirming that it's not the case that God exists, then they're affirming not God.
Correct, which means that they believe there's no God, and that would be a necessary sufficient condition for atheism.
Right. What the fuck else would be? What else would be? I mean, what other condition would you need?
Yeah. I love Ben. Ben says, after listening to this for 3 minutes, I can understand why normal people kick Steve out of the group. Thank you, Ben. I love you too, brother. Yeah, this 8 may need a little tweaking. I'm willing to, like I said, revise this, but but we'll go from there. If you agree that believing P would be a necessary and sufficient condition for atheism, then not believing not P may or may not be sufficient depending on semantics. Okay, no, I you know what? I kind of did clarify this. I forgot my own thing. There are people that will say that not believing P is a necessary and sufficient condition, right? Now, obviously, believing in P, I think, is a necessary and sufficient condition, right? I think that's constitutive of the fact that if you hold the position there are no gods, you've met the requirements of both necessity and sufficiency. But there are people out there that say, well, it may be necessary and sufficient, but it's not. There are just merely not believing may also be a necessary and sufficient condition, right? I think I think not believing is necessary, but I don't think it's personally. I don't think it's sufficient. Personally, that's just my view.
So if it's like, say somebody gave you the premise, it's God exists in an argument, you could reject that premise without having to defend its negation. But if they're affirming that it's not the case, then they're an atheist.
Yeah, well, clearly, I mean, I don't know how you can say that somebody who affirms there are no gods isn't an atheist. That just seems odd to me when somebody does that. But I think what number 9 is the basic. I'm saying that, look, there are people out there that says believing not P may or, well, no, I think I made a mistake here. Then believing not P may or not be sufficient, depending on semantics. No, I think I made a mistake here. Yeah, because if not, oh wait, not, oh no, I didn't. Then not believing not P is what I said. So if you don't believe the negation, that may or not be sufficient depending on if you hold a weak atheism or not. There you go. Which I don't, but I'm giving them principle of charity here. Number 10, if you agree not believing not P may or may not be sufficient depending on semantics, again, weak atheism versus strong atheism, then lack theism, which is the position that merely not having a belief is both necessary and sufficient, where lacking a belief is necessary and sufficient for atheism is merely a semantic assertion. I don't think I made an error in here, but basically what I'm saying in number 10 is somebody who just says, look, I just hold that not having a belief is sufficient and necessary for atheism. That's just merely semantics, because they're saying, hey, yeah, look, it's clearly necessary to be an atheist. You can't believe in God to be an atheist. I agree with that. But they're saying the sufficiency aspect is met merely by not having that belief. But that's semantics.
What's a lack theist? I forgot.
Well, that's a good question on that, because I know what Ozzy meant by it. Ozzy meant originally, when he coined the term lacktheism as a neologism, that it was a position of merely having a lack of belief being sufficient to be atheist, right? Somebody who just says, look, I don't believe in God, therefore I'm an atheist. That's lacktheism. They lack a belief. Now, somehow over the period of time, that became more of a pejorative. And I don't know if Ozzy originally intended it to be a pejorative or not. I don't remember if I asked him that or not. I don't recall. I take it as more of a pejorative nowadays. When I say somebody's a lacktheist, I mean it slightly pejoratively, because they're saying, look, atheism is merely a lack of belief, but they're not willing to even engage on what that entails. Because if you're a weak atheist, if you only hold that not believing in God is both sufficient and necessary, then a theist could do the exact same thing, which is the crux of my WASP argument, that full circle that Matt has never dealt with. Because a theist can say, oh, okay, atheist, if you want to play the game that nearly lacking a belief is both necessary and sufficient, then hey, if you lack a belief that God does not exist, that is both necessary and sufficient to be a theist. And,
Right,
if you don't allow that, that's called the fallacy of special pleading, because you don't have an adequate justification for why you have that exemption.
Right.
So, but anyways, yeah, I wanted to kind of run these questions by people. I don't think I really made any errors in it. I think I would answer all of them yes.
Seems like you can shorten it up. I don't know how. I'm like, I just had fucking LASIK and I can't. I'm putting eye drops in and shit. My eyes are fucked up. But it seems like you could shorten it up somehow. I just don't know. I have to take a better look at it.
Yeah, no, possible. Again, it's one of those things where, you know, I was just kind of toying around with it and stuff. But anyways, yeah, I don't want this to go on too long, but yeah, I just wanted you guys to see that, look, this is the inherent dishonesty of these groups, like the Atheist Experience, and American Atheists is another group that just does the exact same tactics. They try to bully people and they try to steamroll them because they're not willing to engage in these conversations and any kind of actual dialogue. Now, if you want actual dialogue on it, you know where to find it. Great Debate Community, you know, on Facebook. We have 850 some odd members now, which is pretty good. Not going for anything super spectacular, but we have obviously great discussions in there. Very, very higher end.
Activity.
Much more activity, yeah. So that group, you know, and by the way, there's some actually in that group, that other group, there are actually some decent people in there, but they're also in the Great Debate Community. So if you want to have an actual dialogue, you know, come over to the Great Debate Community. But I wanted to kind of warn that person that I initially did the assessment on, to hopefully maybe steer her away from the more lackadaisical way of thinking that the Atheist Experience seems to promote, because I find it to be, again, dishonest. I think their entire approach is dishonest. Now, I don't find their show, as far as them wanting a caller to come in to you know, to talk about things, I don't find that dishonest. But then the entire show has become, well, prove your God. Can't prove it, game over. That's it. But that's in itself dishonest, because unless a theist says, look, I can demonstrate to you God exists, or I can prove to you God exists, sorry, you are strawmanning them by asking them to do so. Right. You literally are. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you only have the onus to demonstrate to yourself or to somebody else, if you're trying to persuade them, the claim that you have. If my claim is not, hey, I can demonstrate to you God exists, you have no onus to do so. I can say all day long, look, God exists, I believe God exists, I'm a theist. As long as I don't say I can prove it to you or I can demonstrate to you, I have literally no epistemic duty at all to demonstrate it to somebody. None. And I would love to find somebody that knows about epistemology that would love to say otherwise, because I don't think they exist. Wait, why would they, Godless Girl? Why would anybody think that you're obligated, onus probandi, burden of proof, to prove or to demonstrate something? And by the way, when you mean prove, I actually mean a logical proof. something that they're not claiming. That is the biggest straw man you can have, isn't it? To say, "Oh, prove God exists." We're like, "Wait, I'm not saying I can prove God exists." They don't. And by the way, I'm not a theist, but hypothetically speaking, do you agree that it's extremely dishonest when atheist experience people do this? Because it to me it's the epitome of dishonest dialogue.
Right, but you know, it's extremely dishonest, but at the same time, I don't think that I think there's a lot of I don't the psychology going on there is like there's so much cognitive dissonance. I don't think they view themselves as extremely dishonest.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me?
Can you run that by me one more time?
It's so insane, but I don't think they realize that they think they're only being mildly dishonest or dismissive. They view themselves as being dismissive.
Yes,
There's a
they
lot of
view
cognitive
themselves.
dissonance.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. Cognitive dissonance. What happens when they see logic that goes against their preconceived notions, right? And they're like, "Wait a minute, this has to be wrong. It has to be wrong because, my fifis tell me this. The atheist experience has told me this." But then they see the logic and they go, "Okay, what's more likely wrong? My understanding, even though they have no education or they don't read anything about it, or the logic?" So they have for some reason they think it's the logic, but when they ask people, "Well, where's the logic fail?" They're like, "Well, it doesn't." So something has to give, and that tension is what produces cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. The the Aaron Ra people are even the fans are even worse, more dogmatic.
Well, yeah, I mean, Aaron Ra is way worse of philosophy than Matt.
But you see that with the fans too. It reflects on the fans. And then fucking T Jump, like.
Are you still dealing with him?
I mean, I actually like him. I kind of like started to like him, but I still think he's fucking stupid. Like, you know, Aaron Ra has a science background. He's like an expert in science, and Matt Dillahunty is very knowledgeable. But T Jump is just like he doesn't even have like a basic philosophy 101 understanding or science. So I don't understand where he gets these fans from.
Well, they're fanboys. That's all it is. Because again, people cultivate, like, generally speaking, like-minded people, but not necessarily. You can disagree all you want, but like-minded, and that people want to have like productive dialogues. Matt tends to cultivate people, I think, that are just very low level on these discussions. Right? They don't understand the topics very well. They hear somebody of authority that they think is owning the theist, so they must be right. Like T Jump has the same thing. Anybody who thinks T Jump knows anything about any of these topics, I'm flabbergasted because I've never met one person, not one, that knows philosophy that says T Jump understands these topics. If you have, Goddess Go, please let me know, and I will have them on the channel. But he clearly doesn't, right? I mean, his understanding is comical. I mean, his whole like morality based upon the involuntary imposition of will. Really?
Yeah, there's not a single philosopher that takes that position.
None. Absolutely none. And so, yes, Matt understands these topics much greater than T Jump. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from him, and he understands these topics better than Aaron Ra. But Aaron Ra better understands, biology. So again, I try to be objective in that particular case. But yeah, T Jump, he's completely inept in epistemology, and he's writing a book on epistemology. I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God, that's like Ken Hovind writing a book on evolution. There you go.
So the whole something I'll tell you something funny happened. I was obsessed with the feminist bullshit for a while in the atheist community. How like these skeptics, right? All it takes is a woman to make an allegation and like they just destroy a whole man's career and everything. He's like presumed guilty on just an allegation alone.
Well, that's what happened with David Silverman.
Yeah, that's a fucking horrible tragedy. It happened to him fucking twice.
Yeah.
Like, he got fired from the atheist community, and then he had to resign from that other place.
Look,
you got to hear the first one was Beth Presswood about Dillahunty's ex-wife.
Right, Beth. Yes, that was Matt Dillahunty's ex-wife.
Incident, you have to hear it to believe it.
No, I know that. I know. I know Dave, and even though I disagree with him almost vehemently on his epistemology. And by the way, he won't debate me on it. He won't discuss it with me. And I've known Dave for a very long time, and he's like, no, I don't want to do this with Steve. I will go on a limb and say he is actually scared to discuss with me these topics, and I mean that with the utmost respect.
David Silverman?
David Silverman will not discuss atheism with me, agnosticism with me.
Oh, atheism. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but no.
Is he?
But I know what happened with
Is he
he
aware
got
enough to know that it's not a good idea for him to do that?
with what, discuss atheism.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that he would look dumb.
Oh yeah, he knows I would cream him. I mean, Dave Silverman knows I would for him on. But I like Dave, right? We get along pretty well.
Yeah,
but he also knows he's way out of his league when it comes to actually demonstrating some understanding of epistemology. He doesn't have any, and I've read his book and I've critiqued his book. No, the second time was he got sued because he put his hand on the lower part of somebody's back that was toppling over, according to him, and it caused her to have an orgasm.
Rebecca Vitzmum was her name.
What was it? Well, I don't remember her name, but yeah.
Rebecca Vitzmum.
Vismum. And it caused her to have an orgasm, and she sued him for that.
Yeah, but you have to hear this to believe it. I don't even expect you to believe me when I tell you this. On David Smalley, that Dogma Debate or whatever podcast,
Mm-hmm. I know David.
He went on there
David knows me.
to tell her like full version of what happened when he touched her back.
Mm-hmm.
And she's crying and screaming to David Smalley. And I've had to go talk to this about my therapist.
Yeah, I listened.
Came out that when he touched my back, I became involuntarily sexually aroused.
Yeah, it's called by the way, it's called the sacrum. She said he touched my sacrum.
Yeah, that's like the name of the lower back.
Right. Yeah, it was contrived as shit. And I did listen to that.
She had nerve damage there, so she was like sexually aroused and in extreme pain.
Yeah. By the way, if somebody touches my lower back and I get sexually aroused, the last thing I'm going to do is probably sue them. Just saying. But even Smitty out there, my mod, Smitty, if you touch the small of my back and I get sexually aroused, I promise you I will not sue you for sexual harassment. Okay. So, yeah. No, I know the story, man. That was completely nonsense.
Something funny happened though. I very rarely blog or anything, but I actually wrote a long-ass blog post about this incident. We went into the Atheist Community of Austin Discord server, and Josh was like trying to debate their dumbasses, and they muted him, typically.
Well, quick, I like the mod over the Discord server, 9 or X. I think it's pronounced as X. He's actually really one of the best mods I've seen, and one of the more knowledgeable ones.
Well, this one was irritating. I don't know if it was him, but this one was irritating. I thought the mute was very unjust. So I said, in this community of skeptics, all it takes is a false allegation to rip a man's career down from a woman. So if you
That's true.
The realistic nihilist again, I'm gonna go. And there was like nobody else in the voice channel to like be a witness against me. So I said, if you mute the realistic nihilist again, then I'm going to go tell everybody that you are like sexually harassing me and verbally raping me, and you will not be a mod here any longer.
You're verbally raping me.
He unmuted Josh, and he left the voice channel.
Well, because people know that actually has power to it. That is a weapon. But not only just that, though, as you know as well as I do, because we go way back in these communities, that these social justice people will use terms like homophobic, bigot, transphobic as weapons, which, by the way, I don't think I have a single homophobic or transphobic person that subscribes to me, at least as far as my Patreons or my members. And I wouldn't want one, right? I mean, if somebody is a transphobe or a bigot or a homophobe, I don't want them around my channel. Why would I? I don't support that. I'm anti all that. But I have a long-standing history of being anti that. So when people try to use those as weapons against me, it's like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? I've had people tell me I'm anti-Semitic. I'm like, my mom's Jewish. I love matzah bra. I mean, it's like, really? I love Israel. I'm very not. I mean, I'm so not anti-Semitic. Go Zion. I mean, it's like, really? but they don't know. They just throw them out as weapons. Oh, hey, I don't agree with your argument. You must be a bigot. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think the same thing happens, right? I mean, people use these things as weapons because there is power behind words. There is power behind allegations, and what happens on the internet stays on there. Lucky, I don't have to worry about it too much. I live off the internet, so I mean, whatever. I mean, I have my base, and the people wanted to believe the false allegation against me. That's fine. They're welcome to do so. But I've had 5, 6, 7 years of people realizing that every single time there's been allegations against me, they've all been demonstrated to be false, especially even in court. I mean, like when I say Kyle was lying his ass off and Kyle submits false evidence to the court and forgery and perjury, and I'm like, I've been saying from day one he was lying, you know? Well, no shit. You know, it's like, really?
Did you have people that like were on his side originally and repented and realized they were wrong? Kyle's side?
I think maybe one. If I had to just guess, I'd say maybe one, but I can't recall who it was specifically. No, matter of fact, as funny is after that came out in court, and after the judge said, you know, there's strong evidence that he has, you know, submitted altered evidence to the court or you know, fabricated things, whatever wording he used. All the detractors just stopped for a while.
They just fell silent?
Oh, deafening silence. Because I've been saying all along, first of all, I said from day one he was served properly, right? And me and Ruh gave the legal statutes of why he was served properly. I knew legally he was served properly. There was no doubt in my mind he was served properly. I was willing to bet thousands of dollars that he was served properly. And then Kyle had run this narrative that I had him improperly served at an old address because I knew that he had moved, right? Supposedly. But they didn't understand was I had, quote, knew that he had moved based upon what he had told me. I believed him at face value. So when he said that he had moved, I believed, okay, weeks later he had moved. But at the time of service, how the hell I would know he had moved? As a matter of fact, during his deposition, my lawyer asked him that. Well, if you had moved prior to being served, how would have Steve have known this? And Kyle's like, well, he wouldn't. I didn't tell him. And it's like, so your whole narrative that you've been spewing for fucking a year that I served you at the wrong address in order to get a default judgment, which I said was bullshit, you've literally destroyed in your own deposition, and to come find out that he never moved, godless girl. He never moved. So how could I have served him at the wrong address if he never moved? Someone worked through that logic for me, that reasoning. He never moved, and he argued that I sent it to the wrong address so I can get a default judgment. How dishonest is that? I don't know how much more vindicated I could be.
What's the current state now?
We're waiting for a contempt charge.
The last I heard.
We're waiting for him to go to jail.
He's still got the warrant and didn't turn himself.
Well, it's not a warrant yet. The warrant comes after the contempt hearing that he doesn't show for, and then there's also going to be possibly turned over to the DA for criminal prosecution for the forgery, the perjury, and the submission of altered evidence.
Oh, do you feel sorry for him at all?
0.
Oh, really? Like, I can understand
0.
the civil stuff, but I don't want anybody to have to go to prison.
I do.
Know? Like, no matter what they've done, because I don't believe in like the whole free will thing. I don't think anybody's deserving of.
Yeah, I don't accept libertarian free will. But no, I'm not a big person for retributive justice. I'm much more restorative. But when you have somebody so obstinate that tells a judge basically, "Fuck you, I'm not going to abide by your ruling," that is retributive at that point. Right? There has to be some kind of retribution for telling a judge, screw you kind of thing. And defacing the system of the court, right? I mean, he literally mocked the court by submitting altered bank records that he forged. Straight up forged. Yeah, there has to be justice for that. So yes, I do want to see retribution. Absolutely. And no, I have 0 empathy for him.
What else is there anything else that's new? Oh, what's your relationship like with Aaron Rock now? Do you?
I got nothing personal against Aaron. No, not on my end.
What about Matt Dillahunty? Like, do you talk to them in private messages?
No. Neither. Not for a very, 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 very long time. But personally, I you know what? If I had to really be straight, I don't think of either one of them as far as like any animosity. I don't really care. I think maybe more toward Matt, because I think Matt deliberately just tried to slander me and lie about me. I think Aaron's is more accidental. I don't think he willfully does it, because I think Aaron's got a big heart. He really does, and I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine Aaron wanting to do something willfully to harm people. It's just hard. I have a hard time believing that. Matt, I think, would. Matt's just he's completely just defames me by lying about my positions, and that to me is just not the sign of an ethical person.
you think Aaron Ra is always well intentioned? He seems like he's like so angry. He like gets so emotional. He can't even
Sure,
like,
but
think
that
about
doesn't mean
it.
he's not well intentioned, though. I mean, like I said, Aaron's got a big heart. He really does. I can't speak ill of him personally like that. I think a lot of it is just he's so dogmatically ingrained in his way of thinking that he doesn't even take on an accord everybody telling him he's wrong. In fact, you remember back when he would not believe that humans were monkeys, even though he's a phylogenists. It took an expert to finally convince him, but it took him. I mean, he was really hating this guy. He's like, humans aren't monkeys, blah blah blah. But he finally had to realize holistically that was the case, and he accepted it. But that's
Oh yeah, I remember watching a video that said we are monkeys.
yeah. But that's phylogeny, specifically dealing with like more holistics. But when it comes to philosophy, when people all tell him, hey, Aaron, you're just not right on this. Your understanding of logic is wrong. I mean, he told me that not B, not P, which is does not believe the negation, is a double negation. It's like, no, Aaron, it's not. Stop it. You know, it's like you just don't have an understanding of these things. And so I think with Aaron is just he doesn't know the topics well, and I think he lashes out like he did with you asking him about Frodo's argument for natural selection. But all in all, I think he has a very gracious heart, and I think if it wasn't for the fact that he was so dogmatically, like he said to me, Steve, if you're right, then my entire life's work is for naught, which, by the way, does not follow, and I think he's absolutely wrong about that.
His entire life's work is what?
For naught. In other words, a waste of, it's a waste. His life has been wasted. If I'm correct, his entire life has been wasted. Like, why?
All those creationist videos were
I thought that was really odd. It's like, no, actually, Aaron, if you accepted that what I'm telling you is the case and you understood the logic and the philosophy, I think you would have a lot more following.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of people would go like, hey, Aaron wants to be rational. That's great. Aaron explaining philosophy to me. Aaron's explaining logic to me properly that I can go independently, objectively verify. So,
right.
That they can't do that now.
He debated Christian Hillbilly, who is just fucking like really low fruit.
Low fruit.
But Aaron Rod's having a really bad day, and he said a lot of stupid stuff during that debate.
Well, I mean,
consciousness pre-exists everything, and then he ended up blocking me on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, well,
another thing is
Batman is low-hanging fruit, but he's very, very sophistic, and he's very, very he's good at manipulating things.
Christian Hillbilly?
Christian Hillbilly, yeah. I mean, for people that are not, I mean, he can go after low-hanging atheists pretty easily.
I mean, Christian Hillbilly really just preaches.
Yeah, but he's not versed in any of this stuff. But he tries to he makes it sound like he is, and he's just not. But now let me ask you: Do you ever read any Tim O'Neill stuff?
No, who's that?
Tim O'Neill writes a blog called History for Atheists, and he just annihilates Arn when Arn makes some categorical historical inaccuracies. Another person was Zaya Hansen, Faithless Pheasant, who annihilated him on the etymological terminology for the word atheist. A lot of people have had objectively, valid blogs against Arn, and Arn just doesn't want to accept them. He doesn't want to accept the fact that he could be wrong on topics he's not that well versed on. And he used to be back in the day. What's that?
Does he respond to that?
No. But it used to be back in the day. I remember Arn say, "Hey, Steve, I'm doing a video on something from nothing. I'm doing a video on the universe from nothing. Can you and King Crocoduck come take a look at it before I release it?" And I said, "Sure," because I'm not an expert in physics. But again, I think he recognized as a layperson, I have a way of understanding things and explaining them. And plus, I actually have talked to Dr. Krauss about this topic, and so we did. And King Crocoduck, who is amazing at obviously astrophysics, we gave him our recommendations, and he kind of took it to heart. But it's so funny because he was willing to ask me my opinion and King Crocoduck's opinion about astrophysics. But when it comes to philosophy, something he really doesn't know anything about, he just thinks that I'm wrong by fiat. But when you ask him the logical arguments, okay, well, if I'm wrong here, why is that, and how do you answer this? He gets everything wrong, and he doesn't have an adequate justification for explaining why my logic is wrong. Yeah, Tim O'Neill is great. Great. Matter of fact, he was on Cheshire's channel. No, he's going to be on Cheshire's channel, I assume.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you ever gonna go on modern day debates again?
I don't know. What would be the topic? I don't know. I did that debate with John Perry from Stated Clearly on DNA as a code or not. I thought that was pretty good. That was on the Non Sequitur show. And I think he was supposed to do it with T-Jump, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, I saw that's upcoming.
Is it upcoming? It hasn't happened yet?
It might have. I saw it a few days ago. It was being announced. But what was your... I actually think that... I don't know much about the argument, but I always use that to pick on atheists with...
What's that?
Like code. Like the word code has to be like intended. So how do you argue against that?
See, I don't actually argue whether code is intentional or not. Maybe, I mean, one could...
Code?
Well, one could argue that encode is an intentional verb, and I understand that reasoning, but I also understand what's called fallacy to analogy, right? I don't think DNA is an actual code. And I disagree with this, but other biologists, agree. So it's not like, oh well, he's a biochemist. How dare can you disagree with him? Well, I know biochemists that say it's not a code. Matter of fact, Crick said it's not a code. He was the original pioneer for DNA. He said it was more like a cipher, but it didn't sound as cool. Okay. I don't think it's a code because what's happening is people are confusing the molecule with the first letter of the name of the molecule. And I think that they're making that into the code. But the molecule itself is not a code. The molecule is a molecule.
Right, because I think if you look up the definition of code, it's like symbols are represented.
Symbols and representations are words, right? And in cryptography, that's what it would be. Nobody ever was, not always, but you would have a code book, right? So symbols and words, they represent something, right? The molecule doesn't represent anything.
The purpose, and the purpose of portraying something, so you can't have purpose without
right.
intentionality.
The A, T, G, and C, people can argue can encode into something. Maybe, but I don't think that's a strong argument. But they're talking about the symbol of the word, not the molecule itself. I think there's an issue there. But again, to each his own. If someone wants to call it a code, I don't care. I think it's an interesting question is, does coding require an intentional state, right?
Right. No, actually, that's good. I'll remember that.
Yeah.
It's the molecule itself, not something that, not
the letters of the nucleotides. Yeah, symbiotics is what it is. Yes, absolutely. Converse contender, symbiotics. But again, I mean, it's not a hill to die on. It's subjective, I think. But I mean, I had that debate. Then I had obviously I debated true empiricism, but that got deleted. But I deleted him on if ATP, the enzyme, is like a turbine, and I annihilated him so bad in the middle, he actually said that he quit. He's like, I'm not going to continue with this before the Q&A. I had two presentations. I had one on the enzymatic functions of ATP, and then I had one on actual turbine theory, because I used to repair turbines in the Navy. I mean, I studied turbine theory, Rateau stages and compound velocity, pressure velocity compounding, and staging and enthalpy and entropy. I mean, Moliere diagrams. We had to learn all that shit. So I knew how a turbine works, right? I mean, pretty well. And so I was like, look, ATP synthase is a enzyme that works on a differential gradient of a proton gradient, an ion gradient. Steam is how a turbine works. Turbines works by fluid, right? Some kind of fluid, and steam is a fluid. So it makes no sense to call ATP synthase a turbine because it's not a fluid that is acting as the imparting the motion. It is a differential of an ion gradient. That's a proton pump. That's not the same thing. And so, I think that I really made a strong argument for that. By the way, I don't know how we got on this topic, way off topic, but
I have no idea what you're saying, but it's right now. But it's sad because I remember being like hang out with Fiona. I was like, Jesus Christ, you fucking people! I don't love anything as much as you guys love science. But then you said to me years later, guy was like, I've been so distracted from the science because I had to learn all this philosophy bullshit to deal with the dishonest atheists. You should take a break from that and go back to science for a while.
You might be right. Yeah, I'll take that to heart. And by the way, I'm the first to admit, 7 years ago, I was philosophically an idiot. I 7 or 8 years ago, especially,
You're to the point now where you can.
I can hold my own.
You don't need to learn anymore to
I
fucking
can hold my
expose
own.
your dishonesty, you know.
Well, I mean, but see, I'm not against being self-critical. I was literally inept at philosophy 7 or 8 years ago. Because especially knowing what I know now, looking back then, I'm like, yeah, I didn't know fuck all back then. But I never claimed to. I thought philosophy was sitting in a chair, smoking a cigar, drinking scotch, and looking at your navel. I mean, I was one of those guys. I'm not afraid to admit that. But I took the time to learn it over the last 7 years and read a lot. And understand the concepts in as much as I could. I mean, I really put a lot of effort into that, which I don't see a lot of people doing. But you're in a group that deals with a lot of philosophy, and even those guys, who I have the utmost respect for, like Jack knows his philosophy very well. Jack's high praise of me was like, well, you're I think he said something along those lines of, well, you're not horrible at philosophy or something. I don't know what his wording was, but it was, it's not even the negative, but it was his way of saying, yeah, you're not that bad at it. I'm like, high praise, I'll take it, because Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I have mastered like the not philosophy, but like reasoning, like being able to pick out errors in reasoning.
The fundamentals, the fundamentals of arguments.
Fucking Jack people, there's just when some of the stuff they talk about, I just like hit a ceiling. I can't learn what the fuck. I'm just not capable of comprehending what the fuck they're saying.
Some of this stuff's hard. I mean, yeah, no joke.
Actually, you've said some stuff about philosophy. Last time you were at Discord, I was like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You learned some stuff I don't even know.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you recognize I took the time to learn this stuff, and most of it was on my own accord. I did take informal fallacies in college, but most of it I did learn on my own. But I think that in a way kind of helped me because I did it at my own pace, and so when you have these very complex concepts, I was able to ponder them, reevaluate them, and keep on reinforcing them. Rather than just rote memorization, because when you learn something in college, a lot of it is rote memorization. Let's be honest. A lot of people will graduate college and not be able to really understand the concepts because all they did was memorize shit. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna bugger off too. Jamie Russell said, "Did you see the debate last night? DNA as a code?" And that's what we're referring to. I did not. I assume that you mean T-Jump and stated clearly. By the way, fun fact: I help arrange that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I love helping James out behind the scenes. Again, I'm a big fan of Moderator Debates channel. Just not the moderation style I'm accustomed to, but yeah, no, I help him out. And stated clearly, I have nothing against Jim Perry. I think he does a great job. I was a huge fan of his channel. We had not so much of falling out. I think our discussion about DNA got a little heated more than it should be, but I blame that on Kyle because Kyle wanted the fireworks, right? He wanted that kind of he wanted to see people get me, right? He wanted to see John Perry just annihilate me, but I don't think Kyle was prepared for the amount of presentation that I had and the way that I attack these types of things when I go in and I have a debate. I go full bore, right? I mean, I have a full-on presentation most of the time. A couple ones I did on Moderator Debate because I wasn't told that was that kind of debate. Like I did one with Snake, and I was told by James, he's going to go in there and show that you're wrong. Okay, I don't need to prepare anything for that, right? So I go in there and I'm like, okay, where am I wrong? And he flubbed everything. I'm like, well, you haven't shown I'm wrong. And people are like, well, you didn't prepare anything, Steve. I'm like, yeah, because that was not what I was there for. Jamie said it was good. We love your analysis. Well, who was it better with? Was it better with John Perry, or was it better with T-Jump? And by the way, codons deal with the fact for your RNA synthesis, right? So it's hard. I think people confuse the codon synthesis with the DNA itself. So when they say a DNA is a code, but then they start talking about the codon chart, and the codon chart is not the same thing as saying the DNA is a code. Those are completely different things. I mean, you have a better argument with DNA with the RNA synthesis from the transcribing than you do from the translation, right? Because you're talking now that's what happens in the ribosome, not from the transcription that comes from the messenger RNA that's going to be produced, right? So I think the transcribing in the RNA rather than the transcription is a little bit more maybe like a code if you're going to argue that because there's a chart you can go by, but even then it's not a really strong argument. But I don't think arguing codons is great for that. But personally, whatever. Yeah, State of Claire is a great YouTube channel. Like I said, he's been around for a very long time. T-Jump did well? Really? Yeah, I would expect John to cream T-Jump. But if you ever watched my debate with John, I think I held my own quite well, actually.
Oh, hey, did you see? Have you ever seen this thing on Urban Dictionary? The Great Debate Community on Urban Dictionary. Somebody wrote, "The Great Debate Community is a counterfeit of the real Great Debate Community, an attempt to take over a community for great debaters for one's own benefits. Don't be a McCrae boomer and create a channel called the Great Debate Community."
I don't bother with any of that stuff. People know the history.
Somebody's salty.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's salty that I actually made something with it. Now I don't use it that much. It's more of just a defunct thing now. It's just it's salty at this point. But yeah, whatever. People know the history of it, and people know that people use that as a weapon. The entire channel made $30 back then. $30. So yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense. And by the way, that was Anti-Ordinary that wrote that, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I didn't even know the history. The first time I ever had heard the term was when I came on a Hangouts. I had been like in the atheist community, but I had never heard it before I came.
What, the Great Debate Community?
Yeah.
Oh, that goes back, what? I mean, when did I form the Facebook group? 2016? 15? Well, actually, the G Plus group.
It was G Plus originally, right?
G Plus, yeah.
All right, but I gotta go.
All right, yeah, peace out.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep, anytime.
Good night.
Good night. All right, well, thanks for guys watching. Again, we decided to go into like a weird direction, but hey, it's cool. We like to talk. But to wrap it up, I did put Unapologetically ME's channel in the video description called Christian Claims Presented as Facts. Go check her out, give her a sub. Respond to my comment if you think it's good, or if you think it's comment is. I think it's a fair evaluation. I think the video was actually pretty good. I think that we need to have more people coming to these communities and want to have these discussions. I'm just really afraid, and this was my response to her, was that, and I did put this on the video, this was a personal response, but I'm just afraid that a lot of people that get involved in these types of discussions, they're going to pick up bad habits. And I'm sorry, the atheist experience as a whole, the people that surround themselves with that kind of stuff, I think is a bad habit. I think they have very, very bad ways of having discussions. I prefer much more talk heathen. You want to watch something and you want to watch people like call in, like theists. They want to call in and talk. Go listen to Jamie Boone and Eric Murphy. And even Vi. I think Vi does a decent job. And there's one other. Who's the other one that I actually had a really nice discussion with them? It wasn't Vi. It was one of the other hosts. But anyways, I'd much rather watch Talk Heathen than, or actually, you know what's good too? Objectively Dan has a good thing called Truth Wanted. That's not bad. I mean, Objectively and Dan and I have had our disagreements, and he wants me to call in one day, and I said I might. But at the same token, it's like, can we kind of have it on a different platform? But yeah, I think a lot of them branched off from the Atheist Experience because even they realized that the show had been taken over by Matt, and Matt's ego was just overpowering everybody. And that's what I'm afraid when people get into these discussions, they want to join the dialogue, they're going to pick up some really. Oh, Trinity Radio. Yeah, I like Trinity Radio. Now, Trinity Radio is Dr. Braxton Hunter. Matter of fact, I'm going to be doing probably this Sunday, maybe, response to Trinity Radio. I did a response to him already, and he did a response to that. He picked out two videos that he liked, mine and Prophet of Zod. And his critique of my video, I think, was fair. I don't think it was accurate, but I think it was fair if you understand the distinction there. But I definitely can give him some rejoinders on that. But I think he at least, try to give a fair criticism, and that's what I respect. That's the kind of dialogues I want. So I might possibly this Sunday do a Steve Sunday School on Trinity Radio's response to me, which is Braxton. See here. So let me take. I'm having kind of fun, so I don't really want to end this too quickly. But any last minute questions from you guys? How you guys think things are going? It's been a shitty year. I mean, obviously the loss of Bull has been devastating to us all, and I'm still feeling the ramifications from that. I'm not 100%. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not 100% by any means. Losing Bull was just catastrophic to me. And it's hard. It really is hard moving on. It's a loss of a family member, and it's just how do you move on from that? I mean, somebody who's in your life like literally almost every day that has been so much of a friend to you. It's been disheartening, especially with no movement on the case and the fact that he won't be able to see a resolution on it. It bothers me. It really does bother me. So I'm hoping we do get resolution on the case. I'm hoping there is justice, and I will be drinking a toast. What about Bull in his honor, the day that Kyle goes to prison or jail. That's going to be all for Bull, man, all for Bull. But if you got any last minute questions, let's wrap this up. But yes, like I said, I told Unapologetically Me that I would at least shout out her video. But don't worry about the drama. Don't get involved in the drama. Just the video itself. Smitty says, my best friend committed suicide a while ago. Enjoy the dreams when you see him and ask him, where were you? I thought you were dead. And wake him up. Smitty, I've had those dreams about my dad, actually. And I mean more than once. I know exactly what you're referring to. I haven't had it with Bull, but I've had that with my dad when I'm like, hey, wait, you're dead, Dad. Yeah, it's mind jarring, right? But it's not like scary, right? I mean, I've never been afraid, like that's just like, hey, Dad, you're dead. What are you doing here? And like this can't be real, right? I've had both, but yes, I've had those types of dreams, Smitty. I thought you were dead. Yeah. Actually, I don't think I've ever thought that I thought you were dead. I was like, you're dead. I mean, I knew they were dead. Min says, I'm still waiting for your video on street epistemology. I know that you're not a fan of it. I can't say that. No, I mean, there's parts of street epistemology that I do enjoy, but I've had videos on street epistemology. And I've had Magthini Magnabosco on, both Non Sequitur Show and on this channel, I believe. And so I've done reviews on street epistemology. I think there's a lot of good to be had there. I think he's tweaked it a lot. I think he's took it from Peter Boghossian's views and kind of made it his own, which I respect. I actually messaged Peter Boghossian the other day because he's like, we need to have these topics of these discussions. And Mark Pellegrino had pointed it out too because he knows. And I said, yeah, hey, Peter, I'm ready for this discussion, man. Why don't you have it with me? Because I've had, James on before, Conceptual James, who works with him, and he's a polite guy. So I'm not afraid to have a discussion with Peter Boghossian. I just think it's fundamentally wrong. And I've listened to his interview, like it was on the Dave Rubin show, and it was horrifying. I mean, it was just bad. I mean, and David didn't give him any pushback whatsoever. And I was like, dude, this was a horrible interview. If you want some pushback, let me talk to you about epistemology, Peter. Lord Bryant, last one right here from me. They're all political. And you say, yeah, it's a lot of political stuff. I definitely agree, Lord Bryant, that they are political. The atheist community of Austin is a political pack, and it's a cult-like pack. They've lost any kind of sense of in my opinion, respectability. The rationality rules thing fractured them. They've never recovered. At least they had like Tracy Harris back then, who I thought did a lot better job at these types of discussions than what they have now by large stretch of the imagination. And he says, sorry about your dad. Appreciate that. It's been a while. But I just wanted to let you know that I do know those dreams. Check DMs. Okay, let me. I don't have anything from you. All. Oh wait, DMs from where? I'm on Twitter, by the way. I don't know which. Let's see here. Jamie says, "What is your issue of DNA being directly analogous to computer coding?" That would take a whole new different thing. Go watch the debate that I had with Stated Clearly on the Non Sequitur show. I don't have time for that right now. Lord Bryant, by that I mean they transforming atheism is something they swore it would be against. It seems like they are more focused on making atheism an identity group. It is. It's an identity. And it's weird when they say, well, atheism is merely a lack of belief, but they spend their entire lives dedicated to groups about atheism. Finn says, Bull will forever leave an imprint in our heart. Yeah, I mean, he really was the standard by which I looked up to. Yeah, I would look good with dreadlocks. God, no. What do you make of Rationality Rules suggesting he debunked William Lane Craig? I didn't see it. William Lane Craig is a professional debater. I think when he starts dealing with the science, he gets creamed. But his philosophy is pretty good. I think Malpass did a very good job in his discussion with him, but it took me 3 days to understand their topic. I had to go directly to Alex and ask him, hey, dude, can you help me understand what the hell you guys are even talking about? And he did, and I made it into one of my blog posts, and I explained my perspective, what the disagreement was between Malpass and William Lane Craig. And Malpass read it. I don't think he had an issue with it. And then Dr. Das Rasmussen read it. He didn't seem to have an issue with it. So I hope I sussed it out pretty well. I like Cosmic Skeptic, only his rhetoric. Yeah, Cosmic Skeptic I like. He's refined his philosophy. He used to have some conflicting views, but I think he's changed that, which I think is an admirable. I would like to, I've talked to Cosmic Skeptic numerous times. Smitty, Rationality Rules was debunking William Lane Craig and said atheism only means a lack of every belief for him. Yeah, Rationality Rules is wrong on that. I'm telling you right now. I've had that exact same discussion with Rationality Rules. And I've explained to him the logic, and he just by fiat says the logic's wrong. But again, same thing. Rationality Rules. So I have a lot of respect for Stephen Wood, but he is one of those people. He falls in that trap. Is okay. Well, where does the logic fail? Well, Brian, keep the content, Steve. We all love what you do, man, and you are a trustworthy friend of mine. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. All right. Well, like I said, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm tired. Play a game, but I'm going to leave you guys with this. Look, this whole video initially was just to basically show the dishonesty of an admin. Groups that are surrounding themselves with the. This is no slam on some of the other mods. Again, Tangiel Wright, I have a lot of respect for. She actually agrees with me on the stuff. But I wanted to show how a dishonest mod, because they want to hang up on you, they want to shut you down, will find an excuse to do so. And this one was like, oh, well, you blocked a mod, without even saying, hey, you blocked a mod, you need to correct that. I mean, that to me is just shitty behavior. But again, I don't care about that group. Everybody who's in that group of any consequences in the Great Debate Community group, so it really makes no difference. I'm in 40 different Facebook groups. I get my message out. But it just shows that, look, if you're going to be in that group, you're going to be dealing with shitty fucking admin. That's all. I sent a DM to myself. Now, look, how do you send a DM to yourself? I don't even know how to do that. I keep having to send myself emails. How do you send a DM to yourself? That is pretty funny. Matter of fact, I will leave that as the going out thing. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Paul, I'll leave that as my. That is pretty funny. All right. Here you go, guys. This is what he sent me. I'm the dumbest man alive. Rocks are atheist. You're clearly dumber. I like that. Yes, I agree. That's really good. All right, leave a comment, like, subscribe, share this video, and if you got similar experiences like Michael Joseph just put out there, by all means, share your experience right here on this video in the video description, or excuse me, the video comments, and look at the video description and go check out other channels. But yeah, please, I want to hear your experience with these types of mods from the Atheist Experience. And if you want to talk about the experiences you've had with mods with the Great Debate community, that's perfectly fine too. I have numerous people have said, look, I have an issue with this mod, and I try to take care of it, right? And I've had people say, well, yeah, I don't want to mod anymore. It's difficult. I'm like, okay, I accept that. And I have people like, I want to be a mod. Okay, well, how would you handle this kind of so? All right, but like I said, I look forward to reading your comments, and I'm going to go take. Good night.